yourself. And this registration will give you the access to the conference events and activities including lunch and dinner. Like I always request, and I requested yesterday as well, please do not switch off your phones. Please do not switch off your phones. You can keep them on the silent mode, but do not switch off your phones. We would like to stay connected with you. On Facebook, we are present as INFOCOM Connect. Do like us and get the updates. On X, with the handle INFOCOM Connect. Join the conversations and also post your pictures. You can tag us with your experiences. Sorry. Hashtag INFOCOMCAL 2024. And on LinkedIn, we're present as ABP INFOCOM. So you can post your pictures and experiences and tag your colleagues. I hope all of you slept well last night. Did you? Can't hear it. Can't hear it. Yes, sir? Did you sleep well? I was literally so tired last night that the minute I hit the bed, I was gone. I was done. So, and then to be refreshed in the morning and come and actually serve all of you, this is what my intention is. I love to come on stage, and I've been doing this ever since I was 4 years old. Not this, not anchoring, but I've been acting since I was 4 years old. So back in Guwahati, in my city, I'm actually an actor, and I've been acting in serials and movies and what have you. I'm also a documentary filmmaker, and I've made a documentary on tea, which had gone to Germany in Bollywood and beyond, and it had been showcased there. And the title of the movie was, look at me, I've forgotten the documentary title. It was on tea, and I had made this was a chronicle on Assam tea, and the brew of the Eastern Clouds. Yes, I got it. Brew of the Eastern Clouds. I mean, I've been making so many documentaries, so it's very natural that I forgot. Brew of the Eastern Clouds, and this was showcased in Germany. So how many of you here, again, like I always keep asking this question, how many of you here are creators? Of course, we have come to an AI forum, AI conference where we can create with just the click of a button nowadays. But how many of you are creators, like as in writers, a poet, or something else? What is it that you do? How many of you are writers here? Poets, actors, singers? Wow. All right. Never mind. We all have a chance to start whenever we can. Because I will tell you that my life has just about started. For those of you who do not know, in 2019, I was actually clinically dead, and I got back. And I've got back with so much of force that, yes, now I've been told that I've got back with so much of force, we need to start now. So good morning, everyone, and we're about to start off with this showstopper session, AI in everyday life. And I think we have to accept it that AI is what we are going to have in the future, so we better get ready for it. I would like to request our speaker, I would like to request Rajat Shubhra Ray, Founder Director, Adamus Tech Consulting, to kindly come forward, please, sir. And a huge round of applause for Mr. Rajat Shubhra Ray, Founder Director of Adamus Tech Consulting. Sir, please. The stage is yours.
A very good morning to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank INFOCOM 2024 and the ABP Group for giving me this opportunity to be part of such a distinguished session in the presence of Sana Kharegani. Sana, we are really honored by your presence, and on behalf of everyone, I welcome you to India and to Kolkata. My name is Rajat, and I am the director of Adamus Tech Consulting. We are a 4-year-old startup, passionate and dedicated to bringing about digital transformation in the education sector. We have developed few products, and we have also tried to leverage a lot of the applications of AI and data analytics to bring about a transformative change to the student teaching learning experience within our platform. We have tried to build in applications of AI and data analytics to give a personalized adaptive learning experience to students to identify their strengths, weaknesses, and give them that value addition. We have also built in a lot of data analytics to give predictive outcomes and predictive analytics to our students so that the interventions can be possible during the learning journey. We have also tried to automate a lot of the education operations and bringing in a lot of intelligence that would drive value within the institutions. I think all of us present here today, we are all aware that AI, artificial intelligence, has brought about a transformative change to all our lives. It has impacted multiple industries, and I think it is time that we all adapt ourselves, we all open up, and we accept the changes that are taking place because of AI so that we can take the best benefit out of it. However, there are certain myths, certain misconceptions, and certain fears surrounding AI that we are all aware of, that we keep discussing, but there has not been any concrete conclusion or a discussion or a statement around that. And since we have Sana present here with us today, I would like to hear from her about some of the myths and some of the applications of AI on our daily lives. So some of the points that we would probably want to discuss is, first, I think we all ponder on the fact that we keep hearing that AI is going to replace humans. AI is going to replace human jobs. So is this really true, or is there a way where AI and humans can really coexist together in the workspace? Second, we always keep hearing that AI will develop themselves on their own without any human knowledge. So, and they're going to supersede human intelligence. So is this true? Thirdly, I think we all know that AI works better when given a lot of data, when given a huge volume of data. So where does that leave us in terms of data security and data privacy? And finally, I think the big question is, will AI really take over the world? I mean, will AI really become so powerful that it's going to outdo humans? And if this is even remotely true, what policies, what countermeasures are being taken to prevent such a risk? So to answer all these pressing questions on AI and to know a bit more on the daily use of AI on our daily lives, I will now hand over the stage to Sana Kharegani, and I'm really honored to introduce her to all of you. Sana Kharegani brings over 20 years of experience in technology and business across the private and public sectors. With a BSc in computer science and an MBA from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Sana has worked as a software engineer in big corporations and startups. As a management consultant advising Fortune 100 C-suite across North America, Europe, and Middle East. And also, she being the inaugural head of the UK government office for AI, leading the team to publish the UK's national AI strategy and invest nearly $1 billion in the UK AI ecosystem. Most recently, Sana, a professor of practice in AI at King's College London, and an ambassador for Responsible AI UK. A £35 million grant focused on seeding and connecting the international ecosystem for responsible AI research and innovation. Please welcome Sana, and I hand it over to you to carry forward with the session. Thank you so much.
Let's get my slides up. Here we go. Good morning, everyone, and it's a real pleasure for me to be here with you today in Calcutta at INFOCOM. And I am Sana Kharegani, and I'm here to talk to you about artificial intelligence. I always find to start off with that it's important for us to have a definition of AI to keep us all on the same page. So what do we mean when we say AI? What are we talking about when we say AI? I think, personally, that this is an incredibly unhelpful term. It is an umbrella term under which sits a whole host of technologies. So everything from auto-completing your sentences in an email or a text message, facial recognition that opens your phone or gets you into your banking app, finding the fastest route from A to B to avoid traffic, or the curated feeds that you watch or shop from or read every day online. Or it's the incredible breakthroughs like Google DeepMind's AlphaFold, for which the CEO, Sir Demis Hassabis, just won a Nobel Prize in chemistry. Or It's ChatGPT, which came into being 2 years ago. So you can imagine this is a massive number of technologies that we call AI. So they're all around us, these technologies. They affect how we do things at work. They affect how we live our personal lives. We each carry our pocket AI with us wherever we go, and if you don't know where it is right now, I'm sure you're looking for it. And at work and in corporations, people are always thinking, what should we do with AI? Do we have enough AI? What are our competitors doing with AI? And at country level, many of the same questions are being asked. Experts have trouble agreeing what AI means. I can tell you this for a fact. We went through a very lengthy process to get to an agreed definition for the UK's national AI strategy, and literally the next day, a whole different definition was codified and was used for the UK's National Security and Investment Act. So in the National AI Strategy, we wrote that government recognizes that there is no single definition for artificial intelligence that's going to be suitable for every scenario. In the National Strategy, we used this one. AI describes any machine that performs tasks normally requiring human intelligence, especially when the machine learns from data how to do those tasks. So, with that definition in mind, let's concentrate on today's agenda. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about AI through 3 lenses: the past, the present, and the future. Or, how I would describe it, a bit of history on how we got here, a little bit about where we are today, and then let's look forward and see what's coming next. I'm going to end with, what does this mean for you and your corporations? What might you want to do about it? And then some questions and answers, hopefully, after that. So, how did we get here? Artificial intelligence as a term was coined in 1955 by Marvin Minsky and a group of others. They thought that AI was a 2-month, 10-man study to figure it all out. That has obviously not been the case and is not the case. 1 month from now, the term artificial intelligence will be 70 years old. I argue, and I'm skipping a lot of summers and winters of AI, so summers of AI are when there was a huge amount of funding into AI and lots of universities got lots of money to do the research. Winters of AI when it all dried up. Nobody put money into AI, and it wasn't fashionable anymore to do AI research. So I'm skipping over all of those. I'm also skipping over massive discoveries and advancements such as machine learning. Each of these individual advancements moved the AI needle forward a little bit. I'm skipping over that as well. But I argue that the big defining moment for AI in recent history was DeepMind's AlphaGo in 2016. This was DeepMind's game of Go that beat Lee Sedol, the world's Go champion. If you haven't seen the Netflix documentary, go and dig it out and watch it. It's really worth a watch. For those that don't know Go, it's an ancient board game that's played in China and other Southeast Asian countries. There are essentially black and white pieces, and you take turns placing them on a board to win territory. And at the end, whoever has more territory wins the game. So it feels easy, the rules are easy, but it's an incredibly difficult strategy game. Children actually go to school to be taught how to play these games. And there are championships. And Lee Sedol was the world's Go champion. And he was incredibly famous. And the moment that he was beaten by AlphaGo, which was DeepMind's computer program, was watched by millions of people literally in awe. The game of Go was considered, at that time, an intractable AI problem. That meant it was a problem that was not solvable. None of the previous methods that were used to play chess, for example, could be used, because trying to determine the next best move involved calculating more move possibilities than the number of atoms in the known universe. So the moment that AlphaGo beat Lee Sedol was when artificial intelligence came into popular view. Straight after that, in January 2017, the world's leaders went to Davos for the World Economic Forum's fourth industrial revolution. Really rolls off the tongue, right? The leaders left that meeting feeling inspired, but also feeling that they were being left behind and that every other country was going to get way ahead of them. Putin at that time said, "Whoever controls AI will be the leader of the known world." The UK also left Davos and immediately commissioned an independent review into AI, which was run by Dame Wendy Hall and Jerome Presenti. The report they wrote was called Growing the AI Industry in the UK. It's an incredible report. It's a little old now, but still worth a read. There's a huge amount of wisdom in there. The report that they wrote led to the creation of the Office for AI, which I was fortunate enough to be the founder of and then lead from 2018. The Office for AI accomplished a great deal. We invested, as you heard, £1 million in the AI ecosystem in the UK as part of the AI sector deal. We published the National AI Strategy and the AI Regulation White Paper. We created the UK's AI Council, which was filled with 25 AI luminaries from across the 4 nations of the UK. We created 5,000 AI conversion courses and 1,000 scholarships. We really set into motion a huge number of measurable and impactful policies. Most importantly, the Office for AI put in place the foundations for AI policymaking at the heart of the UK government. And I'm proud to say that the team I built is still there, and they're working hard. They are now joined by many more civil servants inside a dedicated department to ensure that the UK can get the most out of these frontier technologies whilst mitigating against the risk. The next defining moment of AI came in November 22. So everybody knows this day, because that was just over 2 years ago, literally just, when ChatGPT took the world by storm and became the moment when most of the world not only heard about AI, but also got a chance to play with it. So ChatGPT has widely been seen as the fastest growing consumer internet app of all time. After its launch, it notched an estimated 100 million users in 2 months. So as a comparator, Facebook took 4 years to hit 100 million users when it launched in 2004. ChatGPT is a large language model, and it's also referred to as generative AI. In the crudest way possible, large language models do a very, very powerful autocomplete. And given the incredible amount of data and the computing power that has gone into their training, this autocomplete is incredible. And the ability that it has built inside ChatGPT became the topic of conversation, and it became the trigger point in 22 for the movement around AI safety. November 23, so 1 year later, AI was coined Word of the Year. And then, straight after that, responsible AI took center stage. So what happened? The AI Safety Summit was held. This is the first AI Safety Summit in Bletchley Park in the UK. Nations from across all the continents came together, and they agreed to proactively manage the potential risks associated with the so-called frontier AI and ensure that such models are developed and deployed in a safe and responsible way. This was the first time ever that we had China and the US at the same table, and they both signed this declaration. So it was a real important moment. The US executive order on AI was also released. This was by President Biden. It was literally on the same day as the AI Safety Summit in November. The EU AI Act was enacted, and the consultation response for the UK's regulation white paper also came out. And since 23, there has already been another AI Safety Summit in Seoul, Korea. There's one in a month's time in Paris. 3 AI safety institutes have been created and funded. So there's one in the UK, one in the US, and literally yesterday, the one in Canada has been officially announced. And of course, huge amounts of money continue to be invested into AI, and there's huge amounts of expectation about the global returns from AI. So just to give you an example, in 2024, the market size for AI globally has increased to 184 billion US dollars, which is already 50 billion more than it was in 2023. So it is just skyrocketing. So this brings us nicely to where are we now? Well, I thought we should start with regulation, as I think this plays a very, very important role in how quickly we will see big industries adopting AI technologies. As I mentioned, the EU AI Act was approved in August of this year, and the EU Commission is talking about regulation coming into place very, very soon. The EU approach is risk-based, and it's also horizontal legislation, meaning that the law applies to all AI systems placed or used within the EU. There's also an extraterritorial nature to these regulations as well, which means actually it doesn't matter whether or not you're headquartered in the EU. If your applications are being used there, then the law applies to you. The EU claims that the majority of AI applications currently available in the EU single market, such as AI-enabled video games, spam filters, things like that, they're free to function as they are. Limited risk AI systems, so these are chatbots, not ChatGPT, that falls somewhere else, but chatbots. They're subject to lighter transparency obligations, and then high-risk systems are treated completely differently or completely prohibited. There is a lot of detail, hundreds of pages literally, on how systems might be classified as high risk and what providers of these types of systems need to do. I'm not going to get into that. I think you'll all thank me for that. What we do know, though, is that legislation is coming, and it will establish obligations for providers and users depending on the level of risk, and in some cases includes very heavy penalties for non-compliance with these rules. For companies with large global turnover, so think about like the large tech companies, these penalties can be in the billions of euros. So it is something to watch for. The UK, on the other hand, on the slide you'll see, has set out a principle-based approach with 5 core principles underpinning any AI regulation. These principles are safety, security, and robustness, appropriate transparency and explainability, fairness, accountability, and governance, contestability, and redress. The UK, differently to the EU, is taking a vertical approach rather than a horizontal one. This means that the UK is relying on its existing regulators and their deep sectoral expertise to tailor the implementation of the principles to specific contexts in which the AI applications are used. So there's also, as you may be well aware, there's a new government in the UK, and they've been talking about an AI bill. So things are evolving every day, and we're waiting to see what happens next in terms of regulation. So you might want to know which one of these 2 approaches is right. Is it horizontal or vertical? Is it risk-based or principle-based? In my opinion, probably neither. The answer is probably somewhere in the middle, which is always where the answer lies. And we've already seen, actually, these approaches coming closer together. So the UK is starting to look at having a centralized unit and is definitely facing these things from a risk perspective, and the EU is looking more and more to its existing regulators. So we also have the US and China, who have their own approaches, as well as many other countries in the world who are also looking at this space. Practically, we know that AI regulation is coming. Whether it'll be correct, aligned, well-timed, all remains to be seen. And staying across it is going to require dedicated teams within your corporations. Standards are also coming. I've stuck it in the center of this slide because it's really important. This is going to mean greater interoperability across countries, which is actually what everybody wants and would like. We have agreement today from the world that countries want to reap the benefits from these technologies and mitigate against the existential safety risks. But that agreement is far from countries agreeing on universal AI laws and regulations around these technologies. Meanwhile, adopting these technologies has been a lot slower than anyone expected, which I think will always be the case until we get the right regulations in place. So where exactly are we on the adoption curve across the world? The short answer, nowhere. Not really. What we do know is that AI technologies are pervasive, and they're infusing themselves across everything, in every sector, from transport to education and healthcare, from manufacturing to the creative industries and the services industry. You name the sector, and there's an app for that. Adoption of these technologies across sectors, though, is just beginning. I like to think of adoption going through 3 phases. So phase 1 is when each individual inside a company is using these technologies to make themselves more productive. So this is useful, and it causes very little disruption to the existing workflows at the company. Phase 2, so this is about making existing company workflows, services, or products better or more productive. So this is a little bit more work, but again, this is incremental improvements, but this time at company level. Phase 3. That let out for a second. So phase 3, this is where you really interrogate your data and you dive into what you can offer your customers. So this can be completely new products or services, and it could mean complete reorganization of your company. At the moment, very few, if any, company is actually at phase 3. The only companies who are actually considering new products and applications based on AI are the tech companies themselves. So having said all of that, even though productivity gains from adoption of AI have been slower than expected, a very recent study from McKinsey shows that around 3/4 of all non-tech companies have used ChatGPT at least once. That's 3/4 of all non-tech companies across the world have used ChatGPT at least once. For a technology that's just 2 years old, that is incredible uptake. Arguably, we are still not entirely sure of the most optimal ways to use large language models in most cases. We know they increase productivity in some areas, but the random nature of LLMs makes it a little tricky for firms to scale their usage across their entire industry. So this is going to delay productivity uptick, but given the speed of adoption and the speed of the learning curve, the potential gains are around the corner. A few other notable things about the present that I think you should be aware of before we start talking about the future. First of all, the advances in large language models, which were making an exponential increase, have slowed down much more than anyone expected. So companies are still throwing data, and they're still throwing compute in terms of investment at these problems, but the speed of change has slowed or completely plateaued in some cases. So there's a big question of what that means, and it's actually enhanced or really kicked off the race between the US and China in earnest, because they're taking different approaches to this issue. Second, today, everyone seems to be betting on agentic AI. So what is agentic AI, and why is it the next big thing? Well, agentic AI is essentially an AI agent that works for each of us. So the idea is that you give your agent big, complicated tasks that require lots of different kinds of analysis and would usually take 2 or 3 days to do. And your agent goes off and completes this on your behalf. So imagine assigning your AI agent to find and book your next family holiday, or to figure out when and invite the entire company to an all-hands meeting, or even to determine and then buy all of your family's Christmas gifts. I mean, it's all very interesting. I think it's very interesting indeed. We should also be thinking about what that means to add billions of AI agents to the already crowded workspaces that we occupy today. So third, there is a real shift that we have seen in who is doing the research. So in the past, universities led the research. In fact, we went to university to do research. But that's no longer the case. Universities are still doing research, but more research is now happening at private commercial labs. Just to give you an example of the horsepower of private labs, the research funding for all the universities in the UK is less than that of Google's AI lab alone. So that is only one of the AI labs of the tech giants, and it exceeds the funding for all of the UK universities combined. Finally, many countries are starting to think about sovereign AI, asking themselves the question, where on the AI stack do we as a country want to be? And then considering things like, and considering the choices they have, meaning how much investment do we have, how much money do we want to throw into this, as well as what does this mean for the future of work, for the future of our society, and our culture. So with all of this in mind in terms of what's happening today, let's look at the future. What's coming next? Well, my short answer is, who knows? Nothing about AI is inevitable. I wish it was, but it's not. I can make best guesses at this, just like anyone, but I guarantee we will all be wrong. I'm going to try and answer some of the questions that were set at the top of the introduction, in order to address some of the things that I'm asked most often. So, what do children study in school? So today, 0.5% of the world's population, so less than 0.5% of the world's population, are developing cutting-edge technologies such as artificial intelligence. That is approximately 14 million men and a mere almost 4 million women across the entire world. And most of them, the majority of them, are in the US and China. That's not right. It's not representative of the diverse world that we live in. Now, that doesn't mean that I think all children should be computer scientists, engineers, or mathematicians. We'd be in trouble. Children need to continue to study what they have interests in, because the diversity of thought is what makes humans powerful. Diversity of thought and discipline is what allows us to find AI solutions to the most challenging of problems. But our children must understand how technology is changing their profession and what that means for them. So they can't go into these professions blind. They have to realize that there are tools that are disrupting what we've known. Right, so will AI take over my job? Maybe, it depends. AI technologies really stand at the cusp of making huge swathes of jobs redundant, but they will also create a huge host of jobs we can't even imagine today. These are tools, they augment our abilities. They're not being created to take our jobs. So part of this decision and part of whether we walk into this space has to do with the corporations and the strategies they employ. Let's talk about some of the new jobs that might be created. For example, who would have thought that prompt engineering would be a vocation until ChatGPT came out 2 years ago? Now you have people who literally are paid to interact with ChatGPT on your behalf so that they can get this application to give you what you actually need. Upskilling your employees and thinking about the potential job displacement is a real consideration and should be part of your corporation's AI strategy, not least because transformational change has been proven to fail if you don't take your teams along with you. I had a really great quote, I heard it the other day on a podcast, where someone said, right now what we have is CEOs buying AI Ferraris when most of their people don't even have a driver's license. Right, so Will AI become sentient, all-thinking, all-knowing, and take over the world? The fear of this eventuality is what began the AI safety summits in Bletchley Park in November, and that have continued. It also is why there has been so much money, investment into AI safety institutes, and the creation of 3 of them across the world already. There's a group of people who think that the end of the world is coming at the hands of an all-powerful AI. They're being referred to as doomers. But responsibility is end-to-end. We have to consider the problems and limitations of these technologies today, but we also have to think about how we mitigate against any future problems that may arise by ensuring that we build safety and responsibility in from the outset. Arguing about whether problems of today or those of the future are more important, that's not productive. We have to work on all of it. And there are enough people in the world to cover the whole spectrum. So why choose between safety and ethics, or between regulation and security? Don't we want all of it? I'm an optimist when it comes to technology. For me, tech is the great leveler. AI technologies are incredibly powerful, and harnessed appropriately and aimed at the right things, such as science, they stand to help us solve some of the greatest challenges we have. So fusion technology, personalized medicine, non-invasive surgeries, sustainable agriculture, reversing climate change. Perhaps we will someday also have robots that can empty dishwashers. That will be helpful for me. But for now, we have to continue investing in responsible AI research. We have to ensure that the whole world is part of this conversation when it comes to getting the most out of these technologies and mitigating against the risks. And we have to work together to make the applications representative and useful for the challenges we actually face, rather than the ones that a handful of people think we have. A friend of mine and a colleague called Rachel Caldecott, she says, let's make AI work for 8 billion people rather than 8 billionaires. So what does this all mean for you and your organizations? 3 main things. Governance, how do you begin your AI journey, and a few challenges to be aware of. Firstly, internal governance. These are vital. Internal governance structures and company policies are hugely important to mitigate against institutional risks and the societal impact of adopting AI, especially while we wait for regulation that is coming. Each company needs to be aware of and have policies around the use of AI. Whether you want to admit it or not, these technologies are here to stay, and they're easy to access and use. So there very well might be some of your employees who are using them right now. And the shadow IT that creates in your organization can be scary and carries a high potential for reputational risk or worse. Ultimately, we're going to need a mix of internal company-driven governance structures as well as policies and formal regulation and standards to enjoy the benefits of these technologies and mitigate against the risks. So secondly, AI is not magic dust. I really wish it was. I'd sprinkle it everywhere, but it's not. These are tools that are there to help augment our own capabilities. Staying updated with the latest AI trends and technologies will be crucial in maintaining a competitive edge. So in an organization, creating a culture of innovation, encouraging forward-thinking mindset, and fostering an environment that embraces technological advancement is what each of us has to do to make sure that we're using the best digital tools that are available to us. AI can be made to make each individual more productive, make your business lines and the company processes more productive, or actually to create brand new and possibly much more suitable products. However much or little, though, that you want to use these technologies, you have to start by looking at your challenges. You have to ask yourself, what are our issues? What parts of the way we want to address these issues require technology? And then which ones of these technologies, are any of them AI? And then you can decide whether you're going to build, buy, or partner. It's also important to remember that any AI mature company will need a responsible AI strategy on the agenda of the CEO. The buy-in and the support to make big changes will have to come from the top. The board and the CEO need to be behind these transformations, otherwise they stay at pilot status and they never deliver. Not to mention some of the big questions that can pop up when you start to go down this journey, such as what do you do with the productivity gains when you introduce AI? And what about the potential environmental impacts that you might face? These need careful considerations, and they need to be part of the strategy from the outset. Finally, you have to embrace the challenges, and there are a lot of those. I'll name a few. I'm just going to rattle them off. So there is use case identification, there's serious and global talent shortages, bias, transparency, accountability, dual use, the fast pace, and the changing regulatory environment, not to mention the end-to-end transformational change and all the challenges that that brings with it. Okay, so I have been up here now speaking for almost 30 minutes. Allow me 1.5 more minutes to summarize my entire talk. AI has been around almost 70 years. Regulation and standards are coming, and the innovation, investment, and expectation around AI are continuing to grow every day. Although we haven't seen adoption at the levels expected yet, given the speed of adoption and the learning curve, the potential gains will come sooner rather than later. And remember, as much as we all wish they were, AI technologies are not magic dust. You cannot just add these technologies in isolation and hope everything will be great. It takes work, and there are steps that are necessary to achieve the expected results. Governance is important. People are probably already using these technologies in your organization, so make sure that you are aware and that there are policies and procedures in place to mitigate against the unintended consequences or the potential reputational risks. And let me leave you with this. Imagine that you get it right. What will you do with the productivity gains? How will you use them? Will you take them all as profit and have major layoffs? Will you redirect your workforce? Will you think differently about how you deliver your products and services? And what about the environmental impact of the technologies that you deploy? These are all things that you need to consider today within your strategies. These technologies are here, and they're not going anywhere. Thank you. Do we have time for Q&A?
Yes, ma'am, if you would like to ask a few questions.
Yeah, if people have some questions, I think we have a few minutes for Q&A.
Yes, we have a hand going up. Can we have a microphone? Okay, there's a microphone there itself. Ma'am, you're next after that, yes.
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So you talked about large language modeling. Two questions there. I've read a lot that LLMs have a lot of bias in terms of gender, race, etc. What are the steps taken to be solved that? The second question allied to that is that it requires a lot of data. Where does the data reside, with the company or with the country? And the last question is that what are the alternatives to large language modeling? We're talking about small languages to get the same. So these are the questions.
Thank you. So if I just repeat the questions, the first one is about there was definitely one about data, there's definitely one about smaller languages, and the first one was about?
Large language modeling is showing some bias in terms of gender.
Bias.
Yeah?
Yes. So you're absolutely right. So just a couple of kind of precursors, I guess. Large language models crawl the internet. That means that they basically take all the data that the internet has. So they read everything that's ever been put on internet. They click on every link and read all of that. Every single company minute, university minute, anything that's ever been published on the internet, that's all been absorbed into large language models. As you know, if you've ever scrolled through the internet, not all of the data there is good. Not all of the data there is real. Not all of the data there is the kind of data we would want to train any model with. But that is how, at the moment, they are done. So this brings to question a lot of issues which are on the table right now around copyright and IP. Have people actually allowed this to happen? It absolutely has questions around bias. You know, is this data representative? The answer to that is no, right? Because there's a lot of the world whose data is not on the internet or has never been. And so we have this massive problem of the data not being representative of the people for whom these applications are being used, right? And so at the moment, if you're just, you know, using ChatGPT to write an email, you know, you can keep an eye on it. But if we get to the point where these applications are being used, where the results of those are going to affect you as humans in different places around the world, when we really want this data to be much more representative. So these are kind of open questions, and the answer is yes, there's a lot of bias. Are we doing something about it? Yes, the companies are putting safeguards, but they're not good enough yet. The question around data, I think I've answered. And then the third one around small languages. I think this is a really, really interesting one. So at the moment, the big language models that have come out from OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, they're all English-based large language models. There are other models coming that do things slightly differently. For example, there's one in China, which is using different languages and using inferencing to do large language models in more than one language. Saudi Arabia as well has a large language model that they've created around translation using their own dialects. So these things are coming, but they don't at the moment exist across the world capturing all the languages that there are. But this is one of the powers that AI has, is that ability to allow people to translate from language to language. So if we can get it right, it'll be fantastic. At the moment, it's nowhere near representative. I think there was a lady over here who had her hand up
the
first.
lady here. If the microphone can be given here. Excuse me. The lady, yes.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, this is Anvesha, I'm from Sundew. So you mentioned 3 stages where the companies are, where the associates are being productive using AI and then creating tools out of that, and there's her stages. Do you see a pattern, a pattern in time on how this evolvements are happening from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3? And as you mentioned, there are really companies that are there in stage 3. So what do you think is the reason that there are very less number of companies that are there that in stage 3?
That's a great question. So the stages I was talking about are kind of for traditional sectors and traditional companies. I mean, I say traditional, but this is basically the companies that exist in our economies today, right? The ones that haven't built with AI at their core. And they will go through these phases. How quickly they go through the phases really depends on some of the things I was talking about. So is AI on the strategy? Do they have policies involved? Are they upskilling their employees? Are they taking them along this journey? All of those things matter in terms of how quickly they go. And also, whether or not AI actually makes sense for them, right? So if you are a company who is delivering logistics, et cetera, you have huge amounts of data. So actually interrogating that data and figuring out how to use it and what to do with it is something that's ripe for artificial intelligence. Whereas if you are a services and relationship-based company, you're going to see improvements around the edges, but that might not be a life-changing thing for that company, right? So it really depends on each company and who they are. In terms of phase 3, which was, you said, what are the things standing in the way? I think it's right now, there's an inertia in kind of industry. I think some of that is because of regulation and the lack of regulation. Lots of companies feel that without understanding kind of where the accountability lies and what's actually needed of them, the ask to move down this curve is too much. And so the adoption of AI is happening via the existing enterprise software that they bring into their company. So they might have Copilot licenses, for example, from Microsoft, and they might learn to use those to start off with. But in terms of actually looking at their business lines and that transformation that's required, it's rare right now.
Thank you.
I think one more
Yes,
question?
The last
I
one, if I
think
can
we've-
ask the last one.
I think that will be
Yeah,
the last
I'm in the
one,
front.
yes.
Yes, one last one.
This is Subhashish from ITC. Basically, my question is related to AI impact on sustainability. So you
Sorry,
touched
I can hear.
AI impact on sustainability.
Yes.
So our theme this time also is sustainable disruption. Disruption we understood. Sustainability area, I am told that there are a lot of work which is happening in the European Union. They're coming with policies and things like that. The usage of GPU and PU affecting the overall carbon footprinting. Also the gender bias you spoke about. And maybe the impact on livelihood. So all of these are going to have an impact, and we need to really look at in the lens of sustainability. So
Yeah.
anything you want to speak about?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to take the two sides of that. So one around kind of sustainability of, in terms of environmental impact of AI, and then I'll talk about kind of sustainability in terms of actually keeping these technologies going in light of the diversity issues, et cetera, that we have. So if we take the environmental impact, this is brand new, right? So we've just started research into the environmental impact of AI. And it doesn't look good, right? So there's been a few bits of research. Now, it's questionable. I think more needs to be done to figure this out in terms of the exact impact and how bad it is. But if we take some of the recent research, says that if, for example, if we look at water use, right, pure water use, because that's used to cool down data centers. Data centers are used to run the compute behind AI algorithms. So if you take one email, 100-word email generated by ChatGPT, that's 500 mils of water that's used for that. 100-word email written by ChatGPT. If you take 10% of the working population of the US and you say each of them writes one of these kinds of emails once a week, you've now used over 4 billion liters of water to cool down data centers, right? And now, so there's lots of people questioning this research. You can imagine who they might be, but and saying this isn't correct. That's fine, but it's somewhere between those two things, and that's not good, right? And now we're just talking about water, not about the drain on electricity and other kinds of things. There's a flip side to that, which is actually using AI to solve some of these problems, and I talked about that. So reversing climate change, or actually getting AI to help us do this. But the question is around the responsibility aspect, which is I'm not going to use AI to solve the climate change problem if I'm burning the world in order to do it, right? So we have to think about kind of sustainable AI, which is, for the first time in a long time, we're back to thinking about how much storage space we use, how effective our software algorithms are, rather than just ignoring all of that and just making it go faster. We're back to research around actually how do we make this technology sustainable from the outset. And so I'm hopeful that is there. I advise on a Centre for Doctoral Training in the UK. There's a number of them, but one of them is looking at sustainable AI. So if you are interested in partnering with researchers who are looking at this today, that is an area. In terms of the diversity question, this is a massive problem, right? And it has been. It's endemic in tech and has been for many, many years. The number of women who participate in these technologies are much fewer than there are men. Now, the biggest problem with that is because it's so Western focused and there's a complete culture around this over in the West. So we've got 4 million women, 14 million men today. That is not necessarily what needs to happen in the future. And actually in the East, that stigma around women being in technology is a lot less in certain places. And so I think this is a challenge that we must all take on. And there are organizations who are working on this. One of them is called Technovation. I sit on the board of that. It's an Indian woman who started it. The company is headquartered in the Silicon Valley. And Technovation helps to upskill women and girls from underrepresented communities across the world. And they've started this thing called the AI Forward Alliance, where they are looking to move 25 million women into AI by 2030. And they just did a report called Women in AI, which talks about an untapped market of $200 billion that can be added to the world's economy by just getting more women into this sector.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that answer. And I hope it has answered your question. And I'm sure all of you have a lot of questions for ma'am. We can ask that offline. But we'll have to get on. We'll request you to kindly remain on stage, ma'am.
Oh,
please remain on stage.
Oh, okay.
And I'll request Mr. Rajat Shubhra-Ray to kindly come on stage as well. And I will request Mr. Dhruva Mukherjee, CEO of the ABP Group, to kindly come forward to present mementos and felicitate both our guests. We'd like to thank Professor Sana Karegani, Professor of Practice in AI at King's College, London, and former Head of UK Government Office for AI. Thank you very much, sir. We request Professor Sana and Mr. Rajat Shubhra-Ray to kindly take their seats in the auditorium. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be beginning with our power panel, which is indeed going to be very powerful because we are going to be talking about data globalization versus data localization. So we are going to be playing around with words and with a lot of different things, a lot of information. And this particular panel discussion, this power panel, is power-packed because it has a lot of wonderful speakers, leaders of the industry, who are going to actually capture your attention, keep you rooted to your chairs, and make you ask those 1,001 questions. Just give us a minute to do the setup. And then we are really good to go for this beautifully power-packed panel on data globalization versus data localization. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to begin with the power panel. Data globalization versus data localization. And the chairperson and moderator of this session is Mr. Prasenjit Sengupta, Group CDIO ITC Limited. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the dais and take your seat. And we'd like to have a round of applause for the chairperson and moderator. A very good morning to you, sir, as you take up the position of the chairperson and moderator. And ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce before you the speakers who are really, really powerful. Mr. Shubhankar Pramanik, CDIO Manipal Health Enterprises Private Limited. A round of applause for this industry leader. Where are the applauses, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning, sir, and a warm welcome to you to this power panel. Our next speaker is Mr. Debjyoti Gupta, CTO, TCG Digital. May I request you to come and take your seat, sir? A round of applause. Good morning, sir, and a warm welcome to the power panel. Our next speaker is Mr. Suharsh Wani, Regional Sales Director, NetApp. Warm welcome to you, sir. Good morning, and we request you to take your seat on the dais. Mr. Ramesh Iyer, President and Chief Revenue Officer, HAPPE. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the dais and take your seat. Good morning and a warm welcome. And we have with us Mr. Ramesh Shanmuganathan, Group CIO, John Keels Holding PLC, Sri Lanka. May I request you, sir, to take your seat on the dais. A very good morning to you. Wonderful morning, and welcome to the dais to the seat on the dais, sir. And I hand over to our chairperson and moderator, Mr. Prasenjit Sengupta, sir.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. And I also thank my esteemed panel members here. As you see, the topic, data globalization, data localization, play of words, as it was mentioned, it's actually also taking everybody by a little, everybody is rethinking about this entire concept nowadays. Because if you just look about a decade, a little more, maybe 1.5 decades earlier, we were all extremely gung-ho about the entire cloud movements, the entire amount of storage, high amounts of storage that cloud can bring in, the high amount of compute that cloud can bring in, and everybody was running around putting all the data together. Data across functions, departments, geographies, businesses. And what was the result? Or what was the intention? The intention was that you can have a similar, let us say, a playbook structure that you can replicate from one business to another, one geography to another. You can get all the data in one place, and you can derive a huge amount of insights. And those insights can actually be used to, let us say, cross-leverage sales, services, across businesses, across functions. But now, over the last few years, we are seeing that more and more new rules and regulations are coming in, which is talking about how do you localize the data more and more. So it is no longer about globalization, it is more about localization. And here we are talking about new rules, and just to give you some statistics, almost if I look at global levels, and McKinsey study talks about almost about 70% of the countries have some rules, regulations in some form or shape in place, which talks about how the data should be localized, what kind of data should be localized, and what are the security and the safety parameters which are governing those data. Even in the Asia Pacific region, it might be a little lower, but it is around 60%, but it is catching up very fast. So that basically brings us to the question that how are we going to rethink our businesses? How are we going to rethink about the priorities of getting insights from our data? And how are we going to ensure that we are following the rules and regulations on one side, but we are also meeting the customer aspirations of knowing them, giving them better services, understanding their requirements better? How can we merge all these things together? And here I am actually, it's really a good thing to have panel members who are across the consumer industry, who are coming in from the applications industry like Happy, people like TCG Digital, who are giving solutions around the AI and the data and the insights. We have people like Ramesh and Shuvankar, who are representing the hospitality, the consumer, the health industry, where the data is of paramount interest. And we have also people like Suhas coming in from NetApp, which is the entire, let us say, the entire infrastructure, how the data is going to be stored, secured. So we have got this entire plethora of, or let us say, the entire plethora of data management, data experience gathering, and how it needs to be managed here on the panel. So maybe if I can start with you, Ramesh. And since John Keels is into the hospitality industry, the consumer segment, amongst many other industries.
And especially to Kali Mahapatra for having me and my colleagues from Sri Lanka all the way participating in this event. I thought, just before I answer that question, let me give you a preview to John Keels. John Keels is a mini Tata of Sri Lanka. Close to about $1 billion in turnover, 70 companies across 7 industry groups, about 20,000 employees, and about 10% of the market capitalization of the Colombo Bourse. So I think it's an interesting topic, given that we're looking at sustainable disruption. Globalization of data versus localization is a pertinent topic. But I think if you really put that at the two ends of the continuum, globalization of data is what fuels innovation. But localization of data is where you're then looking at governance and ensuring you put the guardrails in terms of enforcement, right? So if you look at from a John Keys perspective, we got close to about 30% of the inventory in Sri Lanka in terms of hospitality, the cinnamon brand. So for us, even though PDP for Sri Lanka came in only about 2 years back, we had to comply with GDPR way back when GDPR got enforced in 2012, right? So the rude awakening was that in terms of looking at PII data independent of data that you would want to monetize, right? So even if you want to monetize, I think we need to be sensitive that the PII data is masked. So today we have an advanced analytics practice which runs across the group, which was set up jointly with McKinsey as a partner, as a build, own, operate, and transfer. So today, what we look at when we look at the globalization versus localization is ultimately who's the data owner, then who's the data processor, and is the data classified in the proper way given who's owning it versus who's processing it, and then looking at ensuring the guardrails are put in place. So for example, today, if hospitality, so a person checks into Cinnamon Grand, so he becomes owner of the data. So if he's transmitting the data anywhere else, the PII data has to get masked. So what we say is, as long as data is resident, the PII data could be clear. But if the data is in motion, then the PII data has to get masked. So that's where we've moved our entire data sets to Azure. So we look at the Azure data protection engines. We are using Salesforce. Then comes consent management. So when a customer does booking online, every step of the way there's consent management, right? So you will give consent saying, I'm going to process your personal data for this booking. Are you giving consent? Then second, we will use this data to give you promote things to you. You have to give consent. So every step of the way, there is consent management in terms of you have to opt in or opt out. So that's very clear in terms of the laws of the land. You got to give opt-in, opt-out options. And then if you're passing the information to across the group, also we look at consent management, but then we mask the data. So as long as even a retail gets the data from hospitality, they will not know who that person is. So we anonymize the data and only give attributes that can be processed to give promotions, right? So I think that's the way we are managing these things. But as I said, it's not an easy thing to skin. We're all learning. But as I said, the laws of the lands in each geography is very different, and it's important for us to then come to terms with as to how we want to manage that.
Very true. In fact, that brings me, Shuvankar, you are from the health industry. And when we talk about the health industry, I mean, the data that you would be collecting from your patients, from your customers, would be far more sensitive than anything else. But how do you make proper diagnosis, and how do you ensure that the correct treatment is being given to your patients until and unless you are collecting that data, analyzing that data? So here again, if you can just tell us what has been your prerogative of capturing data, securing data, what are the challenges you are facing, and what do you think this new law that we are talking about, which is not yet really a law, but the discussions are far matured in the DPDP Act that we are talking about, how does that impact your industry?
Good morning all. I am to be honored over here, and thank you, Prashanjit, to bring these topics to discuss everyone over here. They should understand, everyone should understand what our individual data value is. That is more important, rather than understanding an organization's data preservative processes. Individual understanding is more important than your organization understanding, right? So let me give you a little bit brief about my organizations. Manipal is the largest healthcare organizations in India. It has 10,700 bedded organizations and 38 hospitals all across India. And we are in the process of more merger and acquisitions. Why I am telling? Because, when you are acquiring some organizations, you are merging with an organizations, you have to take care the data which they are already used to, right? So being a more systematic and more process-oriented organization, so you should look that whatever data we are getting post-merger or post-acquisitions also, that should also have that all kind of governing processes also, right? Healthcare organizations, initially it was more on local business. Now it is going globally, more medical tourism, more telemedicine, teleradiology, all these aspects are coming. So when you are engaging with any other clinics, any other hospitals in India and outside India, you should ensure that the data you are processing, the data you are owning of those organizations, it should adhere the governing rules and processes. And you are correctly said, now government is coming with DPDP Act in India also. It's a framework now they built, and there is a huge compliance effect if you breach that act also. This was very much required in healthcare industry. Eventually, we spoke about the AI, ML, ChatGPT, just previous sessions also. Data is the core of those all technology, right? And if those data, particularly in the healthcare industry where data is the main business oil for the healthcare industry, So for our business only, we should strictly adhere these policies and processes. Data business is going globalized, but data localizations is more important than globalizations, right? So it's already 10 years, 15 years back, there was an act that healthcare data should be in our country. It is a government act already there. But when we are approaching in the outside India also, we are taking the data of the patients from outside India. So it's not only the patient data, it's a, there are multiple point of, sync for data globalizations. Like if I give the example, say patients coming from Bangladesh, or patients coming from UAE, he is carrying his own data, right? We are taking consent, although we are registering the patients and taking the consent that your data will be used for our internal purpose, right? But there is a gap, like we don't have a data from their insurance body, what they are already taken in their country, right? So data, whatever they are coming with us, that is not validated data. That is not authenticated data. That is a huge gap in our healthcare industry. So there are a lot of thought process is going on to build some compliances over there. These are the challenges we are facing.
Just to extend that, do you feel that, because this is also, I mean, inputs coming in from many places, is that even though, as I said, most of the countries are trying to run with various rules, regulations around the data, but there are different nuances to it. And sometimes there is also a conflict of how the data should be managed in one country or another. And since you are also talking about a multi-country operations, Ramesh, you also in your hospitality area, I mean, you were talking about the multi-country experience. Do you think that these might be further challenges of having those nuanced rules and regulations across?
I think the key thing is the ethical usage. I would think it's ultimately in terms of, in addition to the laws of the land, is the company policies and processes in terms of data governance also matters, right? Because, so today, I think it's important for people who are working for you also to understand the nuances of the laws of the land and the regions that we are kind of impacted by, because a lot of time ignorance is what leads to, because in hospitality, now we've seen customers sending PI data on email and say, make a reservation. Right? And we say that please don't do this in an online form. He said, no, I can't be bothered, they'll send it on WhatsApp. So the ignorance is the biggest challenge in terms of data governance, right? Because unless you have it in a structured form, you can't govern data, right? So if it's in unstructured form, that's going to be the challenge in terms of managing data in terms of the constituents as well.
And Ramesh Iyer, if I now come to you, I mean, in some ways, being in the selling of systems which manages travel and claims, right, you would also be having a lot of access that is coming to data. And with this kind of sometimes ignorance, sometimes requirement of different companies, requirements of different countries, what has been your experience? Because you have also deployed your application in numerous countries, numerous companies. So how have you seen the data requirement, the data security change over a period of time?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ramesh Iyer from Happy. I'll try to attempt it in 3 parts. One, context and complexity. The second part would be around design principles of our SaaS platform and the operating environment and the overall security principles that we deploy. And third is essentially on the data localization and versus data internationalization. Happy is a global SaaS travel and expense management provider, one of the leading providers in this world, with over 8,500 corporates, including, if I were to take ITC and Imami and many others in this part of the world as well. All right, so when you deal in a B2B environment, every corporate insists on specific needs to have very stringent security and compliances, right? So we have few million users on our platform and millions of transactions are happening. Plus, additionally in India, we are also a payment processor. We process over 20,000 crores of payment on our platform annually. So you have to have PCI DSS, you have to have ISO 27001, you have to have multiple SSL 256-bit encryption and all of that. That is par for the course, right? But most importantly, having explained Happy's complexity, the kind of volume of data, across multiple geographies we operate, over a period of time we started encountering various challenges in terms of, initially our response was, hey, let's take country by country and deal with every country's local legislation, law requirement. That's how you start, right, in a humble way. But we realized that this is not going to help because many of these legislations are at cross purposes. And the way it gets interpreted, that is also different. The way it gets applied eventually, that is also different, right? So what we decided to do is take a step back and we started looking deeply inside. Fortunately, right from day one, we had a very strong design principle, right? It was security by design. It's not an afterthought, or it's not a patchwork, it's not a quick fix. Everything that we do, every code that we do, every application that we develop, security is inbuilt. We have that lens to go through that security. And privacy by design, right? Every single data, how can it be anonymized? How can it be masked? And how can it be, if it's financial information, how can it be tokenized, right? Exceptionally critical for us to ensure that these are in place. Third is, because it is a SaaS platform and it interacts with a lot of IT systems of corporates, plus we are also, on one side we have corporates, on the other side we have ecosystems in travel, right? You have airlines, you have various other travel-related data systems connected into our system. So it's all real-time happening, right? So we need to, and there are users and networks, external networks are constantly interacting with our application, global application platform. So we said any network or any individual, if they have to have access into our system, it will be on a zero trust basis. The core of everything is zero trust. We do not give access or privilege to anyone, and highly configurable system to ensure that every single user, probably a traveling executive, cannot have access to all the data within the corporate, right? So ITC is a classic example. I don't know whether I can state it here, but Prasenjit made our life a little difficult during the process before getting selected, right? They have a system, it's on-net and off-net usage. When you download there are a lot of sensitive applications, sensitive documents floating inside a corporate. And if you use your laptop or end devices, it's allowed to download. But if you use any of your external system, work from home, for example, you can use and probably access. If anyone is using it outside the net, right, they are not supposed to have the capability to download. So we had to develop something extra to ensure it happens, right? And eventually we were able to get it done for you. So that is the level of security and compliances is being sought by every single corporate. And what happens is, the entire security value spectrum, if you look at it in a B2B context, it starts with the corporates. Corporates demand SSO. SSO has become default, right? Everybody requires SSO, and everybody requires single sign-on, right? So everybody requires on-net or off-net now. And more importantly, the second one is my cloud. For example, we are on AWS. AWS offers its own inherent security. But beyond the cloud security that we have as an additional layer, we also have our own application level security, data level encryption as well, right? So we have our own firewalls. We have our own intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems. Plus, it's not just the deployment of hardware or software, but you have to consistently have a policy and practice to manage them, right? So continuously keep updating them, right? So every single corporate, before they sign a deal, a contract, they insist on an InfoSec audit. So they want to do an VAPT audit. They want to do a vulnerability assessment. So in fact, we have a tool that runs every day on the entire code platform, right? Trying to assess if there is any vulnerability, and if there is a vulnerability, it will flag every day on the entire code platform. And this code base, right? So this code base is different from country to country because of certain nuances. So as part of the data localization versus the internationalization, the challenge that we encountered is, one, the cost. In Saudi Arabia, for example, we wanted to launch our application. It's one of the fastest growing market. In UAE, we wanted to launch. And within UAE, you have government and non-government. Government is very strict about being data on soil, but non-government is okay. You can probably, even if you're a player hosted outside India, we are okay with the data being processed outside. So what happens is, there is a huge cost in terms of deployment of necessary hardware, software, networking, and other application, plus the controls that you will have to deploy, plus the management bandwidth. And cost of non-compliance is huge, right? So that is a huge detriment to many companies, right? So what also happens is when you start reading, there is one company, for example, there is a company called Export Trading Group. They have presence across South Africa and many of European countries, as well as in Middle East, other countries, Southeast Asia as well, right? We had to go through every single legislation, involve a legal counsel from each of these countries and understand whether there is a commonality around all of this. And is there anything that we need to be extra cautious to ensure that it is baked into the platform, right? So what we ended up doing essentially finally is we have created a playbook or a framework for internationalization. This is difficult. It is a full-scale review of all our entire architecture, the deployment, and it's not just about one-time fix, it's also consistently reviewing this and ensuring that it is reflected in the internal guidelines of the company. You will have changes happening every day, in every second country will introduce some legislation. How do you keep track of all the changes in legislation and ensure that that is reflected into the building of the technology here in the platform, right? So that's what we nearly complete to ensure that each of this is really addressed. This is going to help us in terms of competitively scaling. Otherwise, this is a huge burden in terms of cost and compliance and bandwidth, many other things, right? But once you do it, and it's a given, you have to do it, it's not an option, it's a must to have kind of an environment. And once you do it, your ability to increase the user experience, your ability to cater to the respective government, and also risk mitigation, right? If you were to acquire a company, merger and acquisition, that company might have a lawsuit filed on a data non-compliance, in which you may or may not necessarily go through as part of your due diligence. But this framework will ensure even that is captured and ensure that that risk is mitigated, right? So you have to kind of cast your net broader, create those fundamental structure and architecture in terms of a framework and playbook. If you are able to do that, it is a huge exercise, but once you do it, at the operating level, if you feel that this is all the three design principles I talked about, if you design it well, right, whether it is security by design, privacy by design, or zero trust, and data encryption, because whether in data in transit or at rest, it is completely encrypted and masked. If you do all of that, then it is very easy.
So basically what you are trying to say is, even though basically on a lighter note, I mean, a SaaS application nowadays is no longer a SaaS application, but it is actually custom built to a particular company or a country's basis.
Localized.
Agreed.
In a hybrid environment as well, yeah.
Because why I'm saying that, because it brings us, so what you are dealing with is the transactional part.
Yes.
But there is a huge amount of information and insights that companies have always asked for. And that is where I wanted to ask Debjyoti, because TCG Digital is primarily into the business of collecting data and providing insights. So do you also see this kind of a challenge, Debjyoti, that you have to customize your offering for every single country, every single company, and there is no single offering that you can put on the table for the customers?
Yes, that's quite correct. So in our mission, I'll take a short few minutes to tell how we experienced it and what we are going to do about it, or what we are doing about it. So very quickly, so our promise to the customer is to give them the biggest buck for their investment out of their data. And we often come across at a crossroads where this objective is probably impeded by requirements of data partitioning, localization. I'll give a very short example. Probably it was even before the internet, almost 20 years back, we were engaged upon building a trans-global data warehouse for a very large specialty chemical company. Some 65 countries, 40 data systems, and obviously the whole idea was the data would be centralized so that the company could get insights into their workforce and they could deploy them very effectively across. But we ran into some heavy weather when some countries out of Europe, and they quoted GDPR, and particularly Germany, which has a more protective set of rules called Bundesdatenschutzgesetz or BDSG, and which sort of prevented employee data to be exported. And it was a realization for me at that point in time, because it was companies' employee records and company owned it, but they were prevented from taking the data out of the country and bring it to the centralized data warehouse. So obviously there are ways out of it. So I think the final resolutions are that we could figure out that certain sections of the data could not be taken out, but the rest were absolutely fine for the company's efficiency and economic value to take it out. So like data like insurance, the group insurance, the family insurance, the dependents, there were little blanks with respect to certain countries when these data were there, but then you can make it. The point where I'm getting to is, like, information is wealth. Just like companies do, countries do everything to prevent flight of capital, they can have policies to even prevent flight of data. And this practical part of it, but there are ways out of it, and how we deal with it is, of course, we look at right away when we are dealing with the trans-global data migration strategies, we look at possibilities of federation of certain subject areas down there. And thankfully and luckily, the AI has come of an age where I can use classifications to segregate the data and have a very good metadata model where I have perfect control on what data can be global, what is, PII, what should be locally sensitive, should be kept local. And furthermore, like even coming to the large language models, and we have localized large language models to help our customers, and they can be fairly satisfied that it will be within the country. None of the queries they are asking are going somewhere to a server outside. So this is an ongoing journey, and this is the practical part of globalization and localization. AI and technology is ever evolving and making it making us more competent to deal with it. And I think we go on this journey. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Debjyoti. So finally, Suhas, all that we discussed today leads to you. Because infrastructure is where the data is going to reside. Infrastructure is where the applications are going to run.
Yeah.
And infrastructure is where the entire security protocols is also going to get set.
Absolutely.
So how have you seen your world change over a period of time when we were all going round crying globalization, all data together, to now we are saying that separate out the data, but I need the insight. So what has been your journey like?
Surely, Prasanjit, thank you so much for that. And another thank you to you, highlighting the importance of the infrastructure company, which is really good. We feel proud about that. So data is something very close to our heart, and I can keep talking on and on and on, but I will try to be very precise here. Shivankar, Ramesh, Debjyoti have very well explained the business dynamics, how they manage the data, challenges, how they address security and everything, right? So just to top of it, if you look at it, the world is more interconnected nowadays. No company, no businesses or any government can't afford to ignore any opportunity outside their work borders. With coming in more opportunities, obviously there is a more competition coming in. And to stay ahead of the curve, or probably to be number one in the race, I think time to respond to the market should be very quick. And this can be achieved only when you have a right intelligence, data intelligence available with you at the right time, and equally the right data management strategies if you are using about it. I'll give a simple example. Each one of us, on a regular basis, on a daily basis, on a minute by minute, we keep uploading contents to the social media. We keep downloading. But we all know hardly 5 to 10% of the data is very critical. Rest 90% data is junk. So unless we are able to identify and classify that data, we will not be able to manage our own infrastructure. End of the day, probably we will realize my device memory is over. Now there is a problem. Or probably in any case, some serious concerns, you try to find out some critical data, you may not be able to find out data. Right? So it is very important to understand your data management strategies. Today, during our multiple interactions with the CIOs on a regular basis, what we realize, many of the CIOs are completely involved and dwelled into understanding the data management strategies, data landscape, data classification, data governance, how should I build my infrastructure, cyber resilience. Right? And I think the key to success to all these initiatives or all these thought processes, you should have a better control on your data. If you have a control on data, rest assured you are in a good hands. And I believe that is where our NetApp role comes into the picture. Many of you know we are into the, we provide the intelligent data infrastructure solutions, making your data infrastructure more robust, more seamless, more powerful than ever. Right? So we help our customers in giving data management and storage solutions across edge to core to cloud. So basically edge your end clients, desktop, laptop, server, something like that. Core is your main data center. And then obviously cloud, it could be a public cloud or it could be a private cloud, anything else. How do we do that? We have a robust operating system data on tap. We made that operating systems available across the edge, core and cloud. So what it means to you is you have a seamless access to your data. Wherever data lies, whether it's in siloed or whether it's connected, you don't have to worry about it because you are connected very seamlessly. And ultimately you are gaining a control on your data equally. Third benefit which you see here is data complexity goes away because now you have a single pane of glass, single platform, single format. So that complexity goes on and your operational efficiency goes very high. And all this boil down to the cost reductions, which is an ultimate goal which every organization is trying to solve. So coming down to the specific, like everybody spoke about data governance, compliance, or maybe some security concern. So basically what we provide, we have certain AI built-in tool which helps you in giving you better data analytics, data retention policies. You can optimize your storage footprint, whether it's on-prem or whether it's a cloud. All the storage portfolio which we have, or all the solution portfolio which we have, they carry almost 50 plus security certificates. So that means your security has been already taken care. On top of it, we also talk about the encryption, data encryption, which is built in into my every platform. And this data encryption, be it data at rest or data on the wire, we support that data encryption. Going for further, ransomware, which is an most pain area for every customer today, we give you ransomware protection built into the platform. And we do not stop only giving the ransomware protection, we also give you ransomware guarantee. So what I mean by guarantee, with our technologies, while we say we are protecting your data, but for some reason we are not able to give you that data protection, or unfortunately you lost your data, and we are not able to help you in recovering that data at a stipulated time, then we are supposed to pay you the penalty. Right? So that's a ransomware guarantee we equally provide. No other player in the industry provides you the guarantee today. Moving little further, to have your data availability and all that, we have a robust backup and recovery solutions available. We equally have data retentions, or probably we can help you with zero RPO, zero RTO kind of a technologies by building the three-way DR, or maybe in certain cases you will have a cloud as a DR. There are many customers who deal with multi-cloud. So we can help you with all these technologies, right? So in summary, basically what I wanted to leave on a message with you, wherever you find a data, we have some or other things to help you with.
Thank you, Suhas. I think we are on the top of the hour. So I think in summary, the issue is that where the organizations have to move from globalizing their data to localizing their data, also adhering to the local or the geographical rules and regulations. I think the application providers, the infrastructure providers are also coming up with multiple solutions, but it is a completely ever-evolving area where there are no clear answers. But I think the general direction is that you have certain templates to work on, and you abide by the localized rules and regulations, but as Debjyoti also mentioned, there are ways and there are possibilities that exist of how to mine the data and get better insights while staying within those rules. So I think what is going to be the silver bullet is, I think, only time will tell. But at the same time, these information, I hope, is also going to open up the minds to thinking a little different in terms of the capabilities, the functionalities that exist in the solutions of today. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for a wonderful panel.
Thank you, President Chitra.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and Moderator, sir, for this very intriguing and engrossing session. I would like to request Mr. Shubhamoy Chakravarti to kindly come on stage and do the honors of felicitating our speakers here. Mr. Shubhamoy Chakravarti is the CTO, ABP Private Limited and Joint Secretary, INFOCOM. Thank you very much, Chairperson and Moderator, Mr. Prasenjit Sengupta. Thank you very much, sir, for moderating this power panel. Thank you, Mr. Shubhankar Pramanik. Thank you for gracing the occasion and sharing your stories with us. Thank you, Mr. Debjyoti Gupta. Thank you, Mr. Suhashwani. Thank you, Mr. Ramesh Iyer. Thank you very much, sir, for gracing the occasion and being a part of this power panel. And thank you so much, Mr. Ramesh Shanmuganathan, for coming all the way from Sri Lanka and gracing this power panel. Thank you very much, sir. May we request everyone to kindly step forward, yes, for a photo opportunity. Thank you. We'll request our speakers and our chairperson to kindly take their seats in the auditorium. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I'm sure all of you have a lot of questions to ask our power leaders. You may ask them offline, and we will take a couple of minutes for this keynote speech. And the name of this speech is very, very interesting. Integrate, uncomplicate, innovate with Tata Communications Digital Fabric. This is a very interesting panel, so hold on to your seats, hold on to your thoughts, and while you listen to this very interesting keynote address. And ladies and gentlemen, we now begin with our keynote address. Integrate, uncomplicate, innovate with Tata Communications Digital Fabric. I'd like to request the speaker, Mr. Arijit Banerjee, SVP and Head India Region, Tata Communication, to kindly come forward and be on stage. The stage is yours, sir. Do you need some help, sir?
I think we're good. Can I have this thing?
You want the pointer?
Pointer. Hello? Am I audible? Audible? Yeah. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I couldn't be more delighted to be here with you all today. And as I was walking in, my memory took me back almost 2 decades to the year 2002, when the first edition of INFOCOM was held. And I happened to be a part of that. And it's so heartening to see the event having grown in stature and size over the last so many years. And I would really like to congratulate the entire ABB group Mr. Mohapatra, Mr. Chakraborty, and the entire INFOCOM team for making this happen. The theme for this year's event is sustainable disruption, and it will be reasonable to say that this platform has seen so many flavors of disruption over the last 2 decades. Back in 2002, Google was still a small search engine company. Amazon was still an online bookstore retailer. Tesla was not even formed. Smartphones didn't exist. NVIDIA was known mostly for their gaming graphics card. And it was that year when government decided to sell 25% of stake of BSNL to the Tata Group for Tata Communications to come up later. And we were in the last lap of the third industrial revolution, which was getting really powered by the internet. Fast forward a decade, and in sometime in 2012, we had the advent of the fourth industrial revolution, which is when most of these exponential technologies came into our lives. But it will be reasonable to say that it's only in the last 3 or 4 years where we are really seeing the exponential impact of these technologies in our daily lives, because now they are complementing each other and accelerating each other's adoption in the industry. The third industrial revolution, interestingly, lasted for more than 50 years. The fourth industrial revolution is undergoing right now into its 12th year. But we are already now entered the fifth industrial revolution. If the fourth industrial revolution was all about driving efficiency, driving productivity, driving optimization, driving new revenue streams, driving profitability, the fifth industrial revolution is really going to be about a symbiotic relationship of human creativity and all these advanced technologies. It's going to be about collaboration of humans and machines to really uplift societal well-being, but do it in a manner which is ethical, which is trustworthy, which is sustainable, and which is resilient. So if the focus going ahead is going to be human-centric, then it's very important for us to really look at, and for organizations to see how you and me are thinking today and how you and me are going to behave and react to various circumstances today. So there was an interesting report by Accenture this year about life trends. And among the other findings, there were 3 very interesting points that came out. First was enterprises getting impacted by the cost of hesitations you and me are having in interacting with their enterprise. Almost 60% of the respondents have been questioning the authenticity of the information available itself. Almost 33% have experienced some kind of a scam with their personal data. So digital trust is going to be an absolute key for us to succeed during the fifth industrial revolution. Impatience economy. All of us want instant gratification. A big percentage of respondents wanted to really quick solutions to attain their life and financial goals than the traditional methods. Almost 68% said that they would really like to engage in an experiential manner with enterprises. They would want to hear about their products and service from similar people online. Then there was a third fact which came out, which was very interesting, which was around dignity of work. 49% of the employees are saying that they are only hearing improvement of productivity as the key thing from their management, but not so much about customer value and workforce development, which is actually resulting in a depletion of almost 7% of employee engagement in 2024, which is a big number. So employee experience is being ignored, which is then going to impact profitability. These are very interesting trends that came out in the report. And if going ahead, if it's going to be human-centric, then obviously how the enterprises would react to these human emotions is going to define how their IT imperatives are going to be shaped, right? And it's no surprise that CIOs like you are today really focusing on, the topmost focus is customer experience. There is also a continued focus to adopt next-gen technologies like AI, ML, IoT, but just adoption of these technologies would no longer give you the competitive advantage. It's really going to be the harmonious collaboration of human intelligence and artificial intelligence, which is going to result in an overall society uplift that is going to give you the competitive advantage. I think that's a very, very important point to note. Agility and innovation, of course, goes without saying. is a big focus area for all the CIOs. You and me want to deal with organizations where we are confident that their overall compliance and security framework are intact so that my data, my information is lying safely with you all. So compliance and security is a top focus area for CIOs. Lastly, another very interesting thing, employees are saying, I will be most productive in a place and time of my choice. Now, I know there is a religious debate going on about return to office, which will continue to be there, and synchronous collaboration will, of course, be very, very important. But I think it's clearly showing, research is showing that there is a clear 26% improvement in productivity of organizations which are encouraging asynchronous collaboration, which is meaning they're allowing their employees to work from anywhere and anytime and contribute to the overall collaborative agenda. But what is being seen, in spite of all these initiatives that are being taken, there seems to be a gap between what boardrooms and your CEOs are expecting and how the IT initiatives are delivering result. Right? There was a report from PwC which said that 52% of the CEOs are feeling that IT initiatives are taking too long to complete. And all of you may be able to relate to this. 59% feel that they are taking too long to realize value. And then a very interesting thing has come up in a recent IBM survey. 72% CEOs are actually thinking this disruption that is being caused is a risk rather than opportunity. Our intuitive feeling always was that disruption is an opportunity, but actually the survey says that the disruption, people are seeing it as a risk rather than an opportunity. And why does this lag exist? Why are organizations feeling that disruption is a risk rather than an opportunity? I think there are 5 fundamental reasons why this lag is existing between IT initiatives and their ability to realize value. First is fragmented systems. In the last decade or so, there has been a run to the finish of going and adopting the latest application, movement to cloud, adopting the latest security architecture, network, etc., which has resulted in islands of IT infrastructure in every organization. And that fragmented system could be a reason why people are really worried to look at disruptions, because any disruption happens, you'll have to go and change your systems, and it's not going to be changed in one system, it's going to be changed across multiple fragmented systems. The missing lens of experience. For a long time, IT initiatives, which all of us have gone and done, have focused on efficiency and optimization and not so much about customer experience. Ideally, both should exist, but when your point of origin is optimization and efficiency, sometimes the customer experience lens is really missed out. Lack of orchestration and visibility and control. Each one of you would have multiple cloud landing zones, you will have multiple networks, and each one of them would have their own security architectures, you will have multiple collaboration tools, but there is a clear lack of orchestration, visibility and control across this fragmented infrastructure, which sometimes is a bottleneck. Harnessing data and intelligence. I think this is very important. And to be fair, most of the organizations have had a lot of focus around this area, right? There are data, data architectures and intelligence architectures. Most of the organizations have invested. But I think there has been a paradigm shift. Just a few years back, we used to say that 90% of the relevant data in an organization actually lies within an organization. But the fact is today that more than 70% of the data which is relevant to an organization is getting generated outside the organization at the edge. So the data and the AI architecture which was implemented may not be the right data and AI architecture which should be implemented going forward, because your data now is no longer getting generated mostly inside, but it's generated mostly outside. Lastly, when you are opening up your organization to various ecosystems, I think building digital trust across the ecosystem is important. So your cyber security framework, your data privacy framework, and your regulatory compliance framework becomes very, very important. Now, how do you address this lag? How do you address all these issues? We believe the answer is in creating hyper-connected ecosystem. Now, what is a hyper-connected ecosystem, right? Connected ecosystems have always existed. We all know that the airlines were always connected to the taxi fleets, they were always connected to the ticketing agencies, the hospitals were always connected to the insurance companies. So connected ecosystems always existed, all of us are a part of it. But hyper-connected ecosystems are different. Hyperconnected ecosystems have all their stakeholders and participants interact real time. They are always on 24/7, and they are interacting with each other from anywhere. The geographical boundaries, the physical boundaries do not make any difference. They are able to seamlessly collaborate across different channels, across different time zones of their choice. And lastly, most importantly, they are continuing to learn from each other. They are intelligent, they are continuing to learn from each other, and that's how we define an hyperconnected ecosystem. And a recent EY survey shows that companies who have gone to build up or participate in these hyperconnected ecosystems have been able to drive almost a 1.5 times overall cost reduction and almost 2 times of incremental profit. Now, as Tata Communications, we have been working with enterprises across the globe in helping them to either create or be a part of these hyperconnected ecosystems with the help of our digital fabric, which fundamentally puts together various tools, solutions, platforms, and technology expertise to build a unified and a simplified technology foundation for these hyperconnected ecosystems, which then has enhanced visibility, enhanced security, and ease of manageability. Our digital fabric has 4 sub-fabrics. The first one is the network fabric, and this includes our programmable, intelligent, on-demand, and resilient global network backbone. This also includes our LAN and WAN and managed Wi-Fi services. We are also now moving towards our entire portfolio being available as a service. So there is a lot of interest today in consuming network as a service, which has never been the case. So our portfolio and our interaction with customers are moving towards discussions around network. How do you consume network as a service? We've never heard of this earlier, right? But how do you really consume network as a service? And then lastly, there is again a movement towards, and we have taken a pole position and one of the first in the industry to come up with a unified hosted SaaS solution. Because as we are seeing, a lot of customers like yours now wanted to have an integrated architecture around network security and their overall network investment. So we have a very mature, unified hosted SaaS offering for customers who are looking to an unified network and network security implementation. Coming to our cloud and security fabric, we have our ISO cloud platform, which is a scalable platform with a very, very mature stack of infrastructure as a service and platform as a service capabilities. We are also building purpose-built clouds. So in India, we have 2 community clouds, one for the financial services industry and one for the government. The one for the government, which is our government community cloud, runs some of the country's largest government applications, and I will talk about one of it in my subsequent slides. And our financial services cloud are being used by a lot of banks and other financial services organizations to run their core applications. We are also now making our full stack cloud functionalities available at the edge, so that customers have the freedom to run their cloud native workloads where they need to be run, be it on the cloud or be it on the edge, as a complete continuum. So we are having a full-fledged edge offering now, which is a replication of our entire cloud stack of PaaS and IaaS that we have. Lastly, we have also partnered with NVIDIA, and we are building up a sovereign cloud for India with, again, a full set of GPUs and AI Studio built on top of it. We are having a breakout session in the second half today where we'll talk more about that. Coming to our interaction fabric, this is all about customers' interactions and all about employee interaction. On the customer interaction part, we have our omni-channel platform called Kalera, which is a fully microservices-enabled orchestration layer that can sit on any of your systems and can help all your channels seamlessly, integrately, real-time talk to each other. So whether your customer is interacting on WhatsApp, on mobile, through the web, through emails, through your contact center, this layer can sit on top and ensure that there is seamless, real-time, omni-channel collaboration which is happening across all the channels. We also have our InstaCC contact center offering, where we are deploying large-scale next-gen contact centers for our customers. On the employee side, we have a host of tools and platforms that we are working along with our cloud voice infrastructure to set up collaboration workloads and infrastructure for our customers. Lastly, on our IoT fabric, our IoT platform, by the way, global IoT platform, runs more than 800,000 devices today globally, which are powering smart cities and smart infrastructures across the globe. And with our eSIM offering, which is called our Move platform, we are actually powering connected airlines, we are powering connected cars, and a lot of other connected industries. And again, I will talk about one of our very relevant examples to you all very shortly. All our fabrics have pervasive and deep AI capabilities that have got inbuilt into them, and there is a very, very robust layer of security which we have built across all our fabrics. So our customers like you can consume our fabric either as a whole through APIs, or you can consume this fabric even at an individual level, or as a combination. The idea is to really, like I said, provide that simplified, unified, enhanced security with enhanced security and manageability technology foundation for you to take your organization to the next level of creating a hyper-connected ecosystem. Let me now take a few examples to bring to life what we mean by some of this and how we are really working with some of the biggest names globally and in India to create these hyper-connected ecosystems. The first one, I'm sure all of you would be able to relate to very well. It's in one of India's largest quick commerce aggregators, and they almost have they have a 2.5 billion GMV, gross merchandise value, almost more than close to 26 lakhs delivery a day, 3 lakh delivery partners, and obviously the organization wanted to move and double this entire numbers in revenue and reach in the next couple of years. But they had faced some inherent challenges. One, they had a complex set of applications, almost 40 applications, right? They have 30 call centers, outsourced call centers across 50 cities. So imagine if you as a customer is calling or a delivery partner is calling their contact center, the contact center agent had to navigate through 30 plus, 40 plus applications to respond to you. As a result, obviously, almost 10% of their calls were not resolved at the first instance, right? There was complete lack of visibility of operations. The call waiting time was almost 10 minutes, more than 10 minutes. Imagine you and me wanting to order a food and then we have to wait for 10 minutes to order, or some wrong order has got delivered and we have to wait for 10 minutes to reach a contact center agent, right? So it's obviously a painful customer experience. They were paying to their contact center partners based on number of logged in hours of the agents, and they found there was almost an 11% logged in hour discrepancy because of this completely heterogeneous mix of the contact center that they had. We worked with them to create this hyper-connected ecosystem with our InstaCC contact center offering and our Kalera platform to create that ecosystem between the restaurants, their delivery partners, their contact center agents, and most importantly, you and me, which are their customers, right? And this gave them tangible benefits, right? From a 10% of calls not resolved in the first instance, that number came down to 0.7%, which is substantial, right? The average handling time of a call came down by 30 seconds, which effectively meant that the contact center agents were now more productive. They could take more calls, right? The average hold time, there was an 8-minute reduction. You saw average hold time was 10 minutes, that came down by 8 minutes to just 2 minutes. And obviously, all this led to a 15% improvement in their agent productivity. Their login hour discrepancy from 11% came down to less than 1%, right? So overall, there was a hugely improved operational efficiency with a consolidated application layer, a consolidated CRM, our omnichannel platform, which finally, obviously, resulted in them having their NPS scores high, but also made life easier for you and me while interacting with this organization. The second example I want to talk about is National Health Authority, which is an apex organization in the country to implement health projects. And I want to talk about two of them under the Ayushman Bharat program. They rolled out the Prime Minister Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, which is about giving insurance cards and insurance coverage to a certain section of the society. And then they also, under the Ayushman Bharat digital mission, want to create a seamless ecosystem between doctors, the practitioners, between the patients and the hospitals, right? A true hyper-connected ecosystem. They had almost 55 crores beneficiary to be served as a part of the insurance scheme, right? And some of the challenges they faced was almost 6 crores. They realized almost 6 crores of Indian population was being pushed to poverty because they didn't have a health coverage. That's a huge number, right? So obviously they really wanted to create a very robust, secure and scalable infrastructure which could be accessed from anywhere, anytime, with all the stakeholders in the ecosystem completely connected. And obviously any program of the government required an accelerated launch as of yesterday. And most importantly, since the requirements would keep changing, new features and functionalities would have to be kept adding, they wanted an architecture which was completely future ready.
So,
right?
May I request you to kindly summarize, sir, please?
Yes.
Yes, we're really running short of time.
And as a result, I think the health, what we have been able to really deliver to them is almost 36 crores of health records have been created and maintained today. 6.8 crores beneficiaries have got hospitalized. The number of hospitalization they could do in a day was around 2 lakhs. From there, it has gone to 18 lakhs a day. So overall, this is a classic example of a hyper-connected infrastructure for running some of the largest at-scale government applications in India. I know we are running lack of time, so I will skip 2 of them and come to the last one, which is our partnership with one of the largest sports federations in the world, which is Formula 1. Now, I'm sure there would be Formula 1 fans in this room. And on a typical race day, and Formula 1 has almost 24 races running across 20 countries, across 5 continents in a calendar year. On a typical race day, your data which is captured from the track is from almost 90 plus video feeds and 150 plus audio feeds. And more than 500 terabytes of data gets generated, right? Earlier what used to happen is this entire data used to get generated and then used to get, and they needed to have all their employees doing the data production on the track itself. So almost 200 people used to be there for every race, almost 2 tons of production equipment, because the production used to happen at site and then the entire thing used to get broadcasted to 60 plus broadcasters before finally reaching you and me. And there was a lot of jitter, and the overall customer experience of you and me was not very good, because we wanted to now see it on the television, on the mobile or any other form factor. We partnered with Formula 1 and helped them create a production facility in UK. So today all the production happens centrally in UK, then gets distributed to the broadcasters, from where through our CDN network it reaches you and me, and we are able to have a jitter-free experience. What has it really led to? One, today they don't need 200 people to travel. That reduction of people requirement to travel every time, imagine, as an employee I have to travel 12 times in a year to really, show Formula 1 to all of us. That has come down, which has led to employee productivity and employee experience. And most importantly, this is helping them to meet their sustainable goals of the carbon footprint by 2020, because now they no longer need to carry 2 tons of freight for every race that is getting delivered. So these were some of the examples that I wanted to share with you all, where we are really helping customers across the globe create these connected ecosystems. I would really like to thank you all for listening into these conversations, and we will be absolutely delighted to work with all of you in helping you create your own hyper-connected ecosystems and help you integrate, uncomplicate, and innovate. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arijit Banerjee. May I request you to kindly remain on stage, and I'll request Mr. K.K. Mohapatra, Head INFOCOM, to kindly come forward and present a memento to Mr. Arijit Banerjee. Thank you very much for this very interesting session. We apologize that we have to rush through, and you couldn't do the full presentation, but we have more presentations during the entire day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Great show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we move on to our next leadership keynote, Cybersecurity in the Age of AI. And the speaker is Meera Rajavel. May I request Ms. Meera to kindly come on stage, please. She's the CIO, Palo Alto Networks USA. And a huge round of applause for Meera Rajavel. Ma'am, the stage is yours.
Can I get the clicker? Good morning, or I should say good afternoon, 2 more minutes. I'm right at the cusp. So today, you can go to any conference. You can't get away from the conference without uttering the word AI. And, right? AI has to be. So where there is AI, there needs to be security. A new technology, new way to secure. So what I want to share with you today is, AI is something that's going to here to stay. And it's probably going to here to stay, and it's going to accelerate at the pace much faster than most of the other disruptions we have seen. How we need to prepare ourselves, because in the lieu of humanity, in the lieu of technology innovation, we really need to make sure we are getting the full power of AI, but in a very safe and in a human way. That's what I want to share with you today. A few statistics. When you think about AI, this is kind of what the world is. It took us 23 years for internet to reach 1 billion users. For mobile, it took about 16 years. And this prediction was almost 4 months old, and the prediction was AI is going to take only 7 years. The reason we said AI is going to take 7 years is, at that point in time, it's users using, but the current prediction is it's probably 5 years. It's like every single technology, every single application is embedding AI. So at some point in time, it's going to be so ubiquitous, and people are not going to talk about, are you using AI? It's like asking, do you have a UI in your application? No, every application has a UI. At the same time, a lot of us think about AI as chatbot. I mean, October 2022, that's a date we need to mark in our calendar. That's a date AI got democratized. Can someone guess what happened on October 2022? Of course, it was chatbot came. It was ChatGPT was unleashed. The unleashing of ChatGPT democratized AI. And a lot of us still think AI as a chatbot. But the reality is, it's actually in every field. The engineers are using AI. In my own organization, in Palo Alto, 6,000 engineers are using AI for code generation. Every sales and marketing person is using AI for some kind of creative content generation. You don't know, you may think that in my company I have stopped using AI. The reality is your employees are using AI for their own productivity. Yesterday I was talking to a CISO and he said, all of a sudden my team is producing fantastic reports. I know the caliber of that guy. He cannot write 3 sentences together. He produced a 3-page report for me. We know that, where it is coming. I was reading a book recently from Salman Khan Academy, and they are the pioneer. Sam Altman, OpenAI founder, spent time with him to say, how can AI disrupt education? From the early education. So it's happening in everywhere. Why is that important? At the same time, the executive team is worried about it, right? Because you're having people using AI without knowing what is happening in the organization. That's a risk. With the usage, the risk is also going up. Second, the executives are worried about the IP of the organization, especially in certain industries. If you're a regulated industry like insurance or finance, your data is super important, or healthcare. In other places where IP is important, like technology, communication, so the executives and the board is very worried about how AI is going to be potentially putting their business at risk. And at the same time, we are also seeing, not only for the good use, the threat actors, the adversaries are using AI heavily. Just to show you some data, look at what's happening. It's not too far ago. 2021, 2022, it's like only 2 years back. It used to take about 12 hours for someone to plan a ransomware. Today, you can go to, fake GPT, you can go to hack GPT and give a scenario, how you want to plan an attack, it will give you a code. It's less than 3 hours to launch an attack. When you had something like a log4j vulnerability, it took about 9 weeks for the adversaries to plan a threat vector, an attack path to say, how can I leverage that vulnerability? Today, it's less than 1 week. And if you look at the projections with AI, everything is going to come down to minutes and hours. There used to be a notion in cybersecurity called dwell time. What it means, the threat actor is coming in, sitting in your environment, waiting to see when is the right to pick the data. But if you look at the data where things are going at the light speed, nobody has to come and sit there and wait. What I call is the drive-by. They come, take the data, and go. That was true. The healthcare, United Healthcare, most of you know, it took them less than 2 hours to extract 24 terabytes of data. Less than 2 hours. It totally destroyed the economics of the business. All these are great. So, when you talk about cybersecurity, we always talk about, dark cloud and scary prediction. That's what I did right now. But you may be asking, okay, what are we going to do about it? Let's see what we can do about it. When we talk about what we need to do about it, this is the situation of any enterprise. In a typical enterprise, it's going to have hundreds of AI models. Not you need to develop all these applications. Potentially, it's going to be the applications that are used by third party. You're going to have number of users using different models. And at the same time, we are also seeing, 80% of the LLMs that are getting released are getting into jailbroken model as well. So from our point of view, from a cybersecurity point of view, we look at 3 vectors we need to look at. 1, we need to make sure every employee is protected. And 2, we need to make sure every application is secured. To do that, the 3 pillars we look at it, how we prepare for the world of tomorrow, how we prepare for the world of AI. Pillar number 1, you need to make sure your AI is secure by design. The best part is, during the design of your applications, how you plan your workforce, you want to be secure by design. The second pillar we look at is, if adversaries and threat actors are using AI, you can't go to a battle. When someone is using, you can't go to a battle with your buckswatter when the opponent is using a bazooka. So you have to combat AI with the AI, which means how we use AI in cybersecurity to protect against the AI attack. The third is really a practitioner view, the third pillar. When you think about AI, it's a huge productivity tool. So how can we use AI as a productivity tool for the security practitioners? So I just want to walk you through these 3 areas, how we as Palo Alto Networks look at it, and how we are partnering with our customers and partners in protecting the world of AI. Let's start with securing AI by design. We all hear a lot about ChatGPT, GenAI, LLMs. In security, we believe you cannot be, 9 out of 10 times right. Precision is important. I cannot provide someone saying, you know what, I'm going to give you a recommendation. I'm pretty sure 9 out of 10 times I'm going to be right. There are recommendations we give because the customers are going to take action. We have to be 100% right. Then there are things that we can provide guidance that could be a band. So we coined the term precision AI, which means if you kind of think about AI, machine language and deep learning has been there for a longer time. And we believe that when we talk about AI, there are 3 components. Machine learning, which is really good in pattern recognition, which is really good in processing large amount of data and deriving insights out of it. Deep learning, very good for predictions. Using past data and using different patterns, very good for predictions. And then you have your Gen AI. which is actually really good for information summarization, information retrieval, productivity point of view, really getting you to the place where you need very quickly. In Palo Alto, we use all these three forms of AI. When you hear us saying we are using precision AI, we are using it based on the use case, what type of technique is the right technique. So using that as a backdrop, I wanted to talk about securing AI by design. If you want to secure your people, the first thing start with is visibility. What does this mean? If you don't know what your users are using, how can you secure? It's not about knowing what AI your employees are using, but it's also knowing how they are using it. So our first product, which is about AI access security, it's all about giving you a full visibility of what kind of AI is used in your organization and how it is used. For example, if I'm using AI for code generation by my software engineers, or if my sales and marketing team is using AI, let's say that code generation, because most of the time a software engineer using AI for code generation, that's your IP. You don't want this to be in the wide open, right? So you may be legitimating a certain tool to be used by everybody, then you don't want other models to be used. What you will get a chance to do with access security is you can say, what is a sanctioned application? What policies you allow? What about something like a ChatGPT, which is generic? It's one of those models that can do multifaceted thing. Do you want to shut down ChatGPT because someone can use it for code gen? Or you want to open it because it has other? It doesn't need to be black and white. You can be contextual. You can say, hey, I'm tolerating ChatGPT in my organization, but I'm going to have a policy that's going to check when somebody is using, if they are uploading my Java code, or if they are uploading my Python code, or if they're downloading, I'm going to stop them, right? So AI access security is having the ability to have visibility and a contextual way to control how AI has been used. The second area is, when you think about AI, we think a lot about LLMs. But the reality is there are four major components. There is an infrastructure component, there is a model, there is your data, because data is your fuel for your AI engine, then your plugins, the third-party models that you can, or third-party utilities you can put it in. There is vulnerability in all of them. The first vulnerability is when you're talking about infrastructure, you can get your prompts corrupted. If someone wants to poison you, corrupt the prompt. Or the second area is your data corruption. Third is your LLM itself. I mean, you have so many open source LLMs and 80% of them are jailbroken. So when you're choosing LLMs, if it is one of those corrupted LLMs, that can imagine that you're using a LLM that's actually acting as an agent, customer service agent, that can literally spoil your brand by just doing wrong things. The last but not least is the plugins, right? A lot of times we think about plugins as, hey, that's a useful library that I can use, but access is important. Are you giving the plugins the right level of access? So when you think about the second, you want to make sure in the AI you have a secure posture management. And you want the security posture in all these four components. And when you're looking at the security posture, you want to have the ability to discover it. You want to have a real-time assessment. It's not only knowing what the issues are, but the ability to remediate if there is a problem in a near real time. In today's world of things happening at light speed, we think security is solvable only if it is real time, if it's AI-driven, and it has to be an integrated solution so we can see all the data, and it has to be an open interface. So now that we know what is happening, we are securing the posture, need to make sure during the runtime also it's secure. So that's the next one, which is all about securing, because you must have probably made sure everything is right, but someone can inject into your prompt the wrong thing, or someone while executing, the data could be tampered. You want to make sure that is secured as well. So the runtime is the third component from a security by design point of view. This is about protecting your app layer, protecting your data layer, and you're protecting your model predictions as well. Let's move to the second pillar. The second pillar is about combating AI with AI. When threat vectors are launched from AI point of view, we have to combat it with AI. So if you look at in Palo Alto, we have three major platforms. There is a network security that's actually anchoring on anything and everything that's moving in your ecosystem. The second is your cloud. That actually has to work across multiple clouds and also your data centers. The third area is the last line of defense for you, which is your security operations center. And if you look at, we have multiple offerings, and we truly believe, as I was telling, today's security can be only solved if it's integrated. And in our world, the way we have approached this in all these three platforms, we have embedded our precision AI, which is actually over 10,000 machine language models that works across all these three platforms, and it is integrated in such a way that it can recognize attacks that are even never seen before. In Palo Alto Networks, we prevent about 11.3 billion attacks every day. We have 85,000 customers. We are kind of tackling 11.3 billion. Out of the 11.3 billion, 2.3 million attacks were everyday new attacks. I mean, this number in the last 4 years have gone up almost 20 times. The zero-day attack numbers are going up, especially in the last 2 years. It has been a steep curve with the introduction of AI. Let's look at the last pillar. The last pillar is how AI is going to serve security professionals. A lot of us over here are practitioners, so I want to get benefit from AI. And we look at, there are three areas it's going to be a significant impact. One is how it can provide information at the fingertip. I mean, if you kind of think about any security practitioner, you ask them, what is your nightmare? They'll tell you that, hey, I'm dealing with a needle in the haystack. They are just thrown with alerts, they are just thrown with incidents, and then they're asked to go and do a forensic analysis, and that is their nightmare. If we can provide them with tools, if they want to know, hey, tell me in my environment, what is the Log4j vulnerabilities that are still around and which are actually connected to my critical data that I should worry about. How cool it could be if it could be summarized for them, instead of they going to 7 different places to figure it out. That's the first thing, information at fingertip. 2, helping them to navigate through the complexity of the tools itself. And last but not least, we do think that it's automation. Today, if you need to be real time, you can't just tell where the problem is. You have to solve the problem. And if I can say, hey, I'm finding this problem, tell me how to solve the problem. And if I'm okay with that, I want it to be executed in an automated fashion. That's the 3 areas we think AI can really help the practitioners to change the game, to change their world in how they can be productive and how they can be real time in security. Last but not least, while we are talking a lot about it in INFOCOM like forums or NASCOM forums, and India in general is paying a lot of attention, and it comes down to governance. You can't forget governance. So as a practitioner, as a service provider, you really need to think about governance while you're thinking about your technology, while you're thinking about how you're doing. The governance comes down to simple things like education. It starts with AI training. You have to, first of all, what we found is in our own internal implementation, the education first need to go to the security practitioners. The first thing I heard from my team as CIO is, let's block AI because it's very dangerous. And I said, people, if you block, people will find a way to go and do it without your knowledge. So you get educated, you use AI in our own. So we used AI in our own help desk. Today, every employee in Palo Alto has their own copilot that was developed by IT internally. My team is comfortable, so we are actually training ourselves before we train our business. 2, establish your policy and standards. And policy and standards is super important because that will guide you how you're going to adopt the technology, what you allow, what you don't allow, how you explain to people why you do certain things and why you don't allow certain things. 3, establish it as a formal program, an intake program. In our area, what we do is actually we made it so much simple. Anybody can request for any new AI tools. They come down, we'll have a conversation with them. We'll tell them, hey, if you want write-it-AI, I have Jasper, or I have an LLM that's set up for you. Why don't you use this tool? So that actually level down the playing field for everyone they're not afraid to come to IT because they didn't see IT as somebody who's going to stop. Rather, they saw that we are enablers. In fact, we can actually negotiate. We can actually get a better pricing for them. So I wanted to say that while you're thinking about technology, don't forget governance. That's actually important. As an executive team and as boards, they care about the most. So in summary, I would like to say, in the world of AI today, you have to really think about security and AI as a more integrated. As much as it's going to give us outcomes, it's also equally bringing threats. So think about making sure securing your AI, think about making sure that you have the right kind of AI to combat the AI attacks. 3, use it for your own advantage. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. May I request you to kindly remain on stage, please? And I'll request Mr. Somnath Guha to kindly come on stage to do the honors of felicitating Mrs. Meera Rajavel. Mr. Somnath Guha is the Vice President, Production and Engineering, APP Group Limited.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for this wonderful leadership keynote on cybersecurity in the age of AI. It has been a privilege hearing you speak and sharing your views on this subject. Thank you very much, ma'am. We request you to take your seat in the hall. And ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start off with our next leadership keynote.
Okay, let me take this.
Slide changes, slide changes. কি কমান্ডারটা দাও
And here, ladies and gentlemen, we present before you the leadership keynote, The Future of AI-Driven Cloud Services. And the speaker is Dr. Biswajit Rath, Head Analytics and Digital Technology, Raymond. May I request him to kindly come onto the stage and share his thoughts with us. Dr. Biswajit Rath, may I request everyone to please give a round of applause as I invite him on stage. The stage is yours, sir.
Hi. Hello. Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. Since yesterday I was just listening so many informative stops, and you know it's my privilege to speak few knowledge and the show that we have done for Raymond. So to start with, we are a company of from 1925. Raymond doesn't require any introduction. We started in 1925 with certain values in systems. Some the quality, the customer centricity approach, sustainability and all. And we are currently sitting at 2025, another 25 days to go. The entire organization is charged up. We are talking of 100 years. 100 years, sustaining 100 years itself is a big thing. I think you know, I'm actually fortunate to see this 100 years in my company, although I'm not, started at 1925, but I have been associated with the company since last 5 years. Now, what has changed? Commitment quality is still there. Customer centricity is still there. Inclusive growth is still there. What has taken a leap is innovations and modernization. Second, the craving for technology adoptions. My chairman, who is now full hog, saying, hey, how can we go full speed on technology? He is also a Formula 1 champion, and he wants that how we can embrace the technology for betterment of customers, for betterment of my channel partner, betterment of my product, how can I showcase best of the best design. Because for me, red is not red, I have a series of red. For me, blue is not blue, it's a shade of blue. For me, stripes is not stripes, a different style of stripes. So how do I reach to customers? How do I motivate my channel partners? That is what exactly I like to talk about. Now, my slides doesn't have a lot of data, but what I've thought of is that what we do in my office is probably I like to showcase. I like seek your advice, guidance, that how we can make it better, because we are not a technology company, but we embrace technology to go better and better. Now, this is a small lifestyle digital inbox. I know many of you are hands-on, some are specialists, somebody has more view on top of this, but this is a small box like a tiffin box that we have created in our organizations. So we have broadly two parts. One is your enterprises core, the second is your digital core. The digital core has CDP, my entire marketing stops, my e-commerce, omni-channel, while on my right side I have my supply chain, my manufacturing, my sales and distributions, and my product life cycle management. I am not getting into these all details as per se, but I like to take some glimpse of work that we have done in AI and ML or some initiative. While I am showing so, we are still learning. We are a 4-5 years old company as far as our technology is concerned. So we are still learning. What we are learning is something that I like to showcase. Oh, sorry. Can I go back? Yes. Now, these are all not, how can I start? It's not auto playing. Can anybody help to auto play this? Now, while these people are setting this right, can you see these two different sets? One is the traditional style advisory. When you reach to a Raymond shop, you ask to design your own shirt. So these are all stencils which you used to use. Sorry, yeah. Now on the right hand side, what we have brought in the table is, now just think this way, I have a fabric. I would like to showcase this fabric on me. Why do I need two people standing there, keep on taking the cloth? So we have created a AI journey where just by scanning the QR code of the fabric, the person himself can drift the entire attire at one go. He can see how the shirt will look like on him, how the jacket will look like him, how whether he can choose straight, whether he can take colors, whether he can take any other designs. I like to say is the second one. Look at this. Now, the objective, why we did so, because I can't design so many mannequins in my stores. I have very small stores, right? There are bigger stores also, but how can I bring each to the customers? I can give space to customers to think about. That was the theme for this. I'll take you to the next one. These are, look at this. These are all AI generated synthetic model, never been suit for Raymond. Now Raymond, being Raymond, you know, the complete man, we spend huge lot of money only for photo shoots. Now for me, there are every 6 months, you know, different new collections are coming. Do I need to spend every time some money for building new lookbooks, or can I embrace technology to design, you know, on the fly, visual appeals? Now this, whatever that I am showing right now, in the month of October in Pujo section in Kolkata, these are all are available and these are never been shoot. Now this is another one I would like to showcase. Just please go through. This is a solution where we talk about that every individual is different. Let's say person A and person B, the choice of color are different, the feel of the clothes are different, the value of the clothes are different. At the same time, he is a deal seeker. At the same time, he is a person who typically comes in the month of October. He is a person who typically buy shirt and trouser. He is a person who typically buy shirt, trouser and jacket. So there are multiple permutation combinations. How can I bring all of them in one box and right approach reach to the person when he is there in my store, so that he can get the best of the best product and he is satisfied. This is what we call as InstaHeart. It's a AI ML product. By just scanning, it will evoke the application and help the consumer to find out the best product at the best price.
Hi Kalidas, wondering how I know you? Well, my friends here at Raymond tell me that you're a special customer. So I'm here to personally thank you on their behalf for being such a valuable member. And I think you're going to look amazing in that black coat and black shirt. I would love to know how they're working for you. When you've got a moment, just drop me a note through the link below. I'll be waiting to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll just give you a little use case background of this. It's not something not new, but what we thought, while my person is buying, we usually send a feedback message. Why can't I capture his all details? Take the details, not only that he is happy or bad, what is his experience in the store, what is his experience on as far as his product is concerned, what is his experience on the design. At the same time, in the same frame, why can't I give him other offers? Why can't I give him the various videos? At the same time, any person always feel happy. It's a human behavior when he has been addressed by his name. At the same time, he will be happy to know that what he has purchased is the best deal for him, because nobody wants to feel bad while he is purchasing a cloth. At the same time, can I recommend something else? So this is a hyper personalized, where the celebrity is talking about Mr. X, what you have purchased and from where you have purchased, and this lady will also help to take down all your queries when you return back your feedbacks. Look at this. These are something new? Answer is no. These are all available in Reels, right? But what my objective of showing these cases to you, these are all in-house products. These are all being developed in-house in Raymond Tech team. Look at this.
As simplistic as a fabric seems, the process for manufacturing it is extremely complex. This holds especially true in the case of worsted fabrics, for which Raymond is known for as one of the world's finest quality fabric manufacturers. And this is its gripping story of fabric manufacturing, from sheep's back to man's back.
In both the videos, while this slide comes up, in both the videos there is nothing difference. What is the difference? Key difference is, in the first case the person is coming and somebody tailored cuts down his trouser or suit. In the second, he actually playing with what he wants. So that there is a freedom for the customers to think before he buys. For example, I would like to have a stitch somewhere here. Somebody else like from here. But the traditional tailor is fixed his mind, right? So can I bring some change over here? Is something that we are trying to adopt the technology. Look at this. This is the unified commerce which we have inbuilt into our systems. Now this is Microsoft Dynamics 365, where we inbuilt the recommendation engine which kicked in when a customer comes into my store. Now my store staff exactly know that Mr. XX is reached and he is doing his billing. What else that I can promote him? He can evoke those conversations. There is a co-pilot which helps the prompt to help how exactly he has to be addressed, how exactly he has to be talked, so that the person is adding few more into his baskets. This is my store inventory and assortment. The entire store inventory is now age-old, all my warehouse management WMS. And there are a lot of other applications that we have incorporated. We have also incorporated ARS system, which is also an inbuilt in tie-up with another startup, where we exactly know at what time X fabric, Regio Italia, has to be present in, whether in Chandigarh or whether it is in Ludhiana, whether it is in Coimbatore. So that I am not losing a single customer at any given point of time in Pan India. That is the kind of replacement that we do from the back end, and which is absolutely automated. These are all bots that we have created for reaching out to customers. One is the product preference, brand choice and gift cards. If you see, these are all at any given point of time. It is not a WhatsApp communication. I like to talk about my product, I like to talk about my style, I like to talk about my colors at one go. The objective of this is not just to promote product. The objective of this to know you better so that we can serve you better. The more the information that you say, hey, I don't like this color. I exactly know Mr. X is not liking the color. What is the point of sending him the same color message again and again and again? Why can't I stop? If he is not interested, I typically know he always comes and buy in September. And he typically comes in the month of March. Why should I bother him sending a lot of messages and bombard them in his one mailbox saying that please come, please come, please come, I am sending you a voucher. So those are the machine learning modeling that we are building, so that my send time optimization, my text time optimization, my text is really optimized while we are sending the communication. Yeah, this is a Vision AI. We have integrated Pan India in all my store. The objective of Vision AI is not to capture your identity, rather to capture how many people are coming and how many people are getting converted. Having said that, we also try to capture that what is the typical dwell time that a customer spends in my store. What is the path that he follows? Where can I put my planogram in such a way that the customer can really see the offers? I can put across my product in such a way that the first instance when he reaches to my store can visualize this. All these are live, and we meticulously follow this, one of the key metrics in our organization. This is a field force, is also an AI based application for all our field force at any given point of time. It is not a police mechanism. We don't track our field force either where he is going. It is actually helping him when he is having that conversation with the channel partner. He doesn't have to call to somebody or carry a bouquet of papers. He can only go back to the application, log in. He knows exactly what Mr. XX enterprises have purchased, what are the consumption, and what he can refill. This is already live in MyRaymond. MyRaymond is my e-commerce site where the AI, there are 3 AI strategies that we have built in: view, similar, sub the look, and pair. I think these are all available now for all other big players. We have started this recently. This is interesting. We exactly know when my employee is going to leave. Now, there are in all organizations, right, there are key employees, and those key employees has to be retained. But how do they, the HR, the major problem is how HR knows that this person is going to leave, right? That is how tech team come into picture. We have created this model. This is now going around a year now, and we exactly know around 85% we know this person is going to leave. And so that we have a meaningful conversation with the person, right? Understand him better before even he decided to move on. It's not that people are not moving out of Raymond, but at the same time, if I can retain one good employee rather than hiring somebody new, it's a big achievement for my HR folks. This is already live in my system. This is the entire feature engineering which we have shown, which I have talked about. This is the glimpse of it. In all these, if you can see, typically the multi-timer, the ATV, ABA, discount seekers, shade, color, these are all part of the data cubes that we have created in our data lake, which probably helps us designing different offers for you, designing the best solution for you, communicating to you, reach out to my channel partner, serving them on time, so that the entire ecosystem is preserved and going to the different growth. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. May I request Mr. K.K. Mahapatra to kindly come forward and do the honors. We thank you, Dr. Biswajit Rath, for this very interesting leadership keynote, and I will request K.K. Mahapatra, who is the head INFOCOM, to do the honors of felicitating Dr. Biswajit Rath. Thank you, sir. May I request you to take your seat in the hall, and we will go over to our next keynote, Sustainable Intelligence, Harnessing AI to Protect Our Planet. And our speaker is Mr. Ranjit Mitrani, President of Managed Services, CTRLS Data Center. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the dais and present your keynote. Here he is. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I invite Mr. Ranjit Mitrani onto the stage. Sir, the stage is yours.
Hello. Good afternoon. I guess this is too loud. Thank you for your time. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to a lot of friends I met here after a long time. You heard a lot of speakers speak about AI, so I'm not going to tell you the benefits of AI. My earlier speaker, it was brilliant what they shared. So I'm not going to speak about what AI can do. Everybody knows about it. I think I will speak something different. Probably what we need to look at is what you don't know or what they don't tell you when you think about AI. Because every single time everybody presents to you about the kind of stuff AI can do. But in the back end, what is it that they don't tell you is very important. Let's look at a few things. I was reading through some of the reports which are there. An average person in Calcutta drinks about 2.3 liters of water. That's the average. How many of you use Instagram here by show of hands? Not many. Okay. So every single time you use Instagram, average Instagram user is about 140 minutes. That's what it is mentioned. So every single time you use Instagram in a day, which is 140 minutes, Instagram consumes 17 liters of water for running it, right? Let's take ChatGPT. Everybody speaks about Gen AI. You cannot talk about ChatGPT without that. How many of you use ChatGPT? Okay, quite a few. It was estimated earlier that when GPT was launched, that for every query, it used to use about half a liter of water. So every single time you put a query, it takes about half a liter of water. With GPT-4, it is estimated that it takes about 3 bottles of water. Now that's a lot of water consumption. Meta consumed about 5.3 billion liters of water last year. That was the consumption of Meta, right? When the ChatGPT training was done, ChatGPT consumed 700,000 liters of water. Now that's the water which is required to cool a nuclear reactor. Think about it. Now, this is very important when you look at AI platforms. This is just from a water perspective, right? What happens when you look at power? India's power peak load capacity in last year, or this year, sometime in July, was about 250 gigawatts per month. That was the peak load capacity. India's data center capacity by 2027 is expected to touch about 2 gigawatts, right? But interestingly, if you look at most of the social media, and including ChatGPT, let me speak again about ChatGPT. ChatGPT consumed about 250 gigawatt of power. Meta consumed 15,000 gigawatt of power last year. Now, when you look at ChatGPT consuming that kind of power, why does it consume that kind of power? When ChatGPT training was done, they used about 280,000 processor cores and almost about 10,000 graphic cards. GPT-4 was estimated to use about 30,000 graphic cards to do GPT-4. It translated into about 800 petaflops of power in terms of computing power. That's equal to something like 10 supercomputers in the world. That's the kind of consumption, right? Power is a very important aspect when you look at running any of the platforms of AI. An average AI consumes about, I think about 9 to 10 megawatts of power per kilowatt, right? So power is a very important aspect. And that's the hidden cost, apart from a lot of other hidden costs which are there, when you look at implementing generative AI, right? Most of the large companies struggle around this. There's prohibitive costs when it comes to integrating the platforms for running these AI. Even the top companies struggle around areas like this, right? It's interesting when you look at travel in India. It's very complex also. You have to decide how to travel. I come from Bangalore. Very difficult place. Most of the people tell me that Bangalore is pretty difficult from a traffic perspective. So you always decide saying whether you choose a car, you choose a bus, you want to take a metro. It's very complex, and Bangalore was never made out to what it is. So the integration of traffic into the Bangalore city became very complex. And that's one of the reasons why Bangalore struggles as far as integration and traffic is concerned. Now, that's exactly the problem you face when you look at AI. 39% of the companies are experiencing compatibility issues, right, when it comes to generative AI. And that's largely also got to do with the kind of current systems you run. If you look at most of the organizations historically, right, they've grown over a period of time, so there are legacy systems. And of course, you start implementing new technologies. And then there's the aspect of data which is always siloed. So it's very complex when you look at integrating siloed data which is existent with legacy systems and new technology. And that's the complexity that exists when you start looking at AI platforms, right? I come from an era when internet was not there. 1995 is when internet came into India. So I didn't need to worry about passwords. So I didn't have a problem. But this is the biggest issue when it comes to the industry itself today, right? There were almost about 6 billion malware attacks which was there last year. So the biggest problem that when it comes to AI platforms is the data challenges. Almost 3 in 10 leaders reported this. And we all know, and there are enough and more incidents which are reported in the public domain about the challenges that exist as far as data privacy and security incidents are concerned. So this is a very, very important aspect when you look at any aspects of AI platforms which are there. We all use filters. We all use platforms. But the biggest problem today as far as AI is concerned, and which we've seen it across, is the aspect of deepfakes, right? It was reported that there was almost a 700% increase in the incidents around deepfakes in the last 1 year, especially in the fintech industry. Now, that's a very, very large number, and this is going to increase substantially. The biggest problem around AI and the Gen AI platforms is the ethical bias, and I'm not going to get into what happened with Gemini, right? Google Gemini had these issues, and we've had multiple platforms which is in the public domain about the AI hallucinations which existed. And this is one of the biggest areas that concerns which comes up every single time we look at AI or Gen AI platforms as far as the industry is concerned, right? When you go into India and when you go into most of the remote places in India, this is a very common scene which you see, right? The reason why you see the scene is because most of the time transport is a challenge. So you have to fit in people with the available mode of transport which is existent. So you have to scale. And the biggest challenge when it comes to this particular platform in Gen AI is the scalability issue itself. I spoke to you about the kind of consumption ChatGPT needs when it's running these infrastructures. Imagine running 280,000 cores, processor cores, 30, 40,000 GPUs, not to mention how it is for you folks. But the scalability is the biggest platform, and how do you scale this more efficiently when you're running these Gen AI platforms? And this is very important when you look at implementing any Gen AI within your organization, right? The other aspect always comes. You walk up to a CFO and say, I want so many $1 million for me to actually have a Gen AI platform. The biggest question always is the return on investment when it comes to implementing this. Almost more than 38% of the companies had a problem in strong ROI. And we've seen, if you actually Google it out, you'll find a huge number of companies which actually failed as far as Gen AI is concerned. And largely because of the fact that they had the problem as far as ROI is concerned, right? So this is a very, very important aspect when you look at implementing AI or Gen AI platforms within your organization. This is one of the most important aspects, if you ask me, right? I think more and more you're seeing this aspect of regulatory hurdles which exist as far as most of the markets are concerned, right? India is also no different, with most stringent privacy laws that has come into place as far as even India is concerned. This is one of the most critical hurdles that you will face when you look at Gen AI platforms. So you will have to keep this in mind that when you look at implementing any AI platforms, the risk and the issues related to governance is very, very important, right? So what is it at a very broad perspective, if you look at it? What do we believe is a strategic guide? What is it that any organization needs to do when you look at implementing AI platforms, right? And it's very simple, actually, if you ask me in some way. You got to develop a very clear strategy, because many of the failures which we've seen, and McDonald's, for example, if you Google out, is one of a classic example of a failure of AI, right? It's very important to have a very clear strategy in terms of your plan in the future as far as AI is concerned. Invest in data management. I did speak about the aspect of siloed data. And one of the biggest challenges in the tech industry is the siloed data that exists. It's very important that you invest in data management. Invest in tech and infra, right? I again spoke to you about legacy systems that exist today. It's very important that you have to invest for you to progress away from the legacy systems, for you to look at Gen AI platforms. And lastly, of course, you have to pilot AI projects. There's no point in trying to go big bang and say we're going to do all of this. It's very important you start small and then look at how it works and then start scaling. I did speak to you about deepfakes, issues around privacy. It's very important that you establish ethical guidelines within the organization. You collaborate with external parties who have the capability to help you out on these areas. You monitor and adapt based on what comes out from those reports which come in. And it's also very important that you communicate and educate within the organization. And the reason is this, that some of the incidents which I spoke to you about earlier, 62% of those incidents happened from inside the organization, and it was not external. So it's very important that you communicate and educate when it comes to most of the Gen AI platforms, right? So what is it we do from a controller's perspective? Controllers is a group of companies. It's not just a single company. Started off as a data center company way back in 2008, having data centers across India, which I will show you in a few minutes. But the focus is this for us, that when we look at delivering platforms and technologies to customers, it's imperative for us to look at it from an end-to-end holistic solution. And that's the reason you will see all of these companies which deliver those platforms across to our customers. Right from 8-bit, for example, which is the latest entrant in our group of companies, which delivers GPU as a service, AI as a service, to Deep Forest, for example, which does a lot of ML modeling. And all of these companies which we've actually started, we keep in mind all those issues which I just spoke to you about. That is about sustainability, right? It's about a sustainable AI platform. That's the most important part when we build data centers and we start focusing on delivering these platforms across to our customers. This is the main stack. I'm not going to get too much into this, but this is the stack which we deliver when it comes to delivering AI services across to our customers, which is the core platform starts with the kind of infrastructure you deliver to our customers. I did speak to you about the kind of efficiency that is required for you to run Gen AI platforms. So it starts with the kind of infrastructure that gets delivered. It starts with the foundational models which we build across to our customers. And then, of course, the application ecosystem and the support around it. All of those layers are built across, and this is the stack which we deliver all to our customers, and we'll be very happy to share a lot more. We have a stall outside. My colleagues are there. We'll be very happy to share with you all of these details which are there. What's very important when you look at AI is the ability of a data center to run the AI. And I did speak to you about earlier about the kind of consumption of power which is required, water which is required. Most of the time when you start looking at these projects, when you have a captive data center, you don't look at the kind of power or the water which is required for you to run it. So it's very important that you look at this. All of our data centers which are there, these are flagship data centers which we have across Mumbai, Patna. Patna is an edge location which we have. Noida, Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad, right? Patna and Lucknow are what we call as edge data centers. But all of these are AI-ready data centers. And what does it mean by saying AI-ready data centers? It's very simple. You will look at all our data centers which is there, which will have almost 40% less energy efficiencies, right? It's got 10% more performance and almost up to 100% heat removal efficiency. And these are very important when you look at building Gen AI platforms. It has also got AI-ready power provisions. The backend infra, for example, can support almost 250 kilowatt per rack, and average rack capacity is anywhere between 6 to 10. But we have the backend infrastructure to actually support that. We also use liquid immersion cooling, which basically reduces the carbon footprint, because that's the most important part when you look at energy-efficient data centers. In fact, our data center currently in Mumbai, for example, one of the data centers is fully efficient, green efficient, 40 megawatt of power comes through solar. Our intent is obviously to extend that across to all our data centers and by 2030 to have zero carbon footprint. I mean, that's a focus area for us. These are the upcoming ones which are there. Chennai, Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Calcutta. Calcutta is going to be a 16 megawatt data center which is going to be operational. Most important, again, I keep specifying that these are AI-ready data centers. It's not just a data center which is like what any other data center would be. All of these are rated for data centers, but these are AI-ready data centers. So when you look at running your platforms, it's very important to have a look at, do you have a partner who can actually deliver AI-ready platforms to you in the future, keeping in mind the kind of capacities in terms of scaling, in terms of power, all of those aspects, whether you have a partner to actually deliver that, right? All of these we keep in mind is because sustainability is the core for our business. We have the industry's lowest PUE, which is about 1.3. Industry average is about 1.8. We run at about 1.3 as far as industry average is concerned. We'll be 100% renewable energy by 2030. I did speak to you about net carbon zero by 2030 again. We have almost 80 plus innovations around the energy efficiency part itself. Our focus always when we look at building IPs, for example, is around data center energy efficiency. And that's the reason you will see a lot of awards which has been won by controllers in terms of sustainability awards, which is the Golden Peacock Award, which is very, very important. The last part also is we have a DC, which is a fully solar facade in Mumbai. Not to mention that 10 million tons of water was recycled, and by 2030, again, 100% usage of recycled water will be done by our DCs. All of these are core to build a sustainable infrastructure, because most of the time when people look at running infrastructures, these are never taken into consideration. You generally look at, I bought these servers, I bought this storage, I have these softwares, and I just run these platforms. But what is important and the core to our business is to deliver sustainable infrastructures to our customers. And that is the reason you will see all of these, and we spend a lot of money around this in terms of ensuring that all our data centers are sustainable, and we are able to deliver sustainable AI across to our customers. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. It's a pleasure talking to you folks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ranjit Mitrani. Thank you very much, sir. May I request you to kindly step forward. And I request Mr. K.K. Mahapatra to kindly come forward and present a memento to Mr. Ranjit Mitrani. He is the President, Managed Services Control S Data Center. Thank you, sir, for being with us today and sharing your stories with us. Thank you. We request you to take your seat in the hall. And ladies and gentlemen, we now have the showstopper session, Sustainable Disruption Through Innovation, a CXO Leader's Playbook. And we're just taking a couple of seconds to do the setup. And our keynote speaker is Dr. Sudhindra Kaushik, Professor of Practice, Reva University, Bangalore, and Chief Innovator and Co-founder, Prasu. Please put your hands together for Dr. Sudhindra Kaushik. A warm welcome to you, sir, and the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, and great to be here at in the city of joy, but I don't see too many faces which are smiling, so let me see if that can change. The good news is I am between you and lunch. The bad news is it's not going to last too long, for me, I hope. Very quickly, it's not working. Okay, let me do it here. while they figure it out. So I have come from Bangalore, so my job, day job is I consult in innovation. So work with companies like Philips and so on, in Singapore, in the Netherlands. I also work with different kinds of companies who are very smart, like you. I have some strange hobbies, which is relevant for innovation. That's why I'm sharing it here. I draw cartoons, and I also act in movies and serials in Kannada, and most of them are flops. That's the guarantee I give them. So if you want a flop movie or flop serial, I'm here for you. But something else happened. I usually get the role of a cop. Maybe the way I look, I don't know. So usually I get this. And after a few weeks, I got another offer, which was a tea shop owner. Okay? So that one. So I was very disappointed and very depressed. So I went to my wife and said, look, I have been downgraded. My stardom has been affected. She said, hey, don't worry. Maybe you'll become prime minister someday. I said, okay, let's do that. So like I said, I work with a lot of companies who are into innovation. My career and my PhD in innovation kind of put together the research is how can we build skills in any organization, irrespective of the domain. How can we build pipeline of innovative ideas, and how can we build patents? That's how I work with. So I'm going to share a few things that I learned in these sessions that have been close to 9,000 now. Have a lot of, like I said, working with smart people like you, have a lot of learnings. But 20 minutes is a challenge. I'm going to do my best, of which only 17 is left. Business, of course, is to make money at by solving problems at a profit. So if you remove profit, we are ISKCON. If you add profit, we are a business. But innovation is needed because business is like walking up an escalator which is coming down. Many a times, it doesn't actually, be at the same place, you need to move at a certain speed. If you're slow, you're thrown out. Now, having said that, I love this quote from Jack Welch. If the rate of change outside exceeds the rate of change inside, I think the end is near. I think it's applicable for us as individuals, but also as companies and organizations. Like I said, irrespective of whatever kind of business we are into, we need innovation for new products, new services. We just saw Raymond. We can see everywhere, even people selling momos outside the street are finding ways to come up with new ways to sell momos. In this process, one thing happens. It can be a very simple thing like this I don't know, in north of India, but south of India, it is used as a destruction of evil eye, which can also become something else for people to work with, something innovative as well. Now, having said this, there are more simpler things. I saw this ad from SBI, kind of marry now and pay later. Sounds interesting, right? Even those who are not considering might kind of think about it. Or even Skechers. So what they're trying to say is basically they have a solution, right? Which for some people it's a problem. Not everybody has the same problem. It could be even more complicated. If you put oncology scans to 100 scans through doctors, qualified doctors, they get an accuracy of 80%. But if you put it through an AI system, then it gives 99.7% accuracy. Now that's interesting, because when you look at how innovations work, it's basically what is new, but also more importantly, what is useful. For us, us in the kind of the people in this room, new is easy. Useful is not that easy. For most people, usefulness is because it's outside the creator's realm. I create, but you have to find it useful. Now that challenge puts you off guard as well. It could be in any function. I repeat this, it could be in any function, because there is a myth that it should be in the tech development area. No, it could be in HR, it could be in testing, it could be in supply chain. How you help companies roll out your payments and invoices. I know of a company, I work with a lot of HR teams on innovation. One of the companies innovated something called, you all know dearness allowance? They innovated something called nearness allowance. If you're staying near the company with a certain radius, you get a certain incentive. We can discuss the details over lunch, because there are a lot of things that you can do in any function that your organization has. Now, why is that important? Because to me, it's a wake-up call. Just watch this guy. Yeah. I love this for the second half of the video. He is clapping, right? But he has no clue why he is clapping. Now, many of the things that we go through, whether it is the terms, the technologies that we want to talk about, or the innovation aspect, which I work with a lot of companies that I showed you, many places the same problem. They have to say the right things, but are they doing the right things? That's where the problem comes. Now, it is a wake-up call because 2 out of 3 companies would disappear. There are hundreds of surveys like this. You can look up whichever you like to. But the truth is, there are companies which have actually disappeared. And I love this quote. It hurts me, but I love this. This company who had 220,000 plus patents says, we don't know what we did wrong. They didn't do something right. That's the problem. Now, that right is very subjective. The right is very relative. The right is where things can go wrong. Now, there is a difference. If you look at research, it converts money into knowledge. Dr. Nicholson from 3M put it very beautifully. And innovation converts that knowledge back into money. So you give somebody a thin filament and say when it is red hot, it will emit light. You cannot give everybody a wire who needs light. So you need a product, you need a bulb, and that's what innovation does. Now the businesses would scale this up. They will make it globally available, different kinds of product, different kind of segments, wherever they need it. But more importantly, closed loop systems are stable systems. So what is this closed loop? Is how much money do you put it back into your R&D? Or rather say research and innovation. Now be clear, if you put money into R, you will not get money back, you will get knowledge back. If you put money into innovation, you will get knowledge, but you'll get money for sure. So the whole point is these 3 need to work together and not separately, they don't exist at all. Now effort of innovation has nothing to do with the impact of innovation. I spent 3 years, but it didn't work, but I spent 3 weeks and it did something. That is how you should think. Some innovation efforts are small, but the impact is big, and the other way around. So you cannot measure innovation on the left side of the dotted line. You should look at it from the right side of the dotted line, what it does. A simple cardboard. We have been discussing technology, I'm pretty sure from yesterday I wasn't here. AI, Gen AI, IoT, blockchain, you name it. All technology that we put together is absent in this. It's just a bloody cardboard, folded in a certain way to carry pizzas and sauces and water bottle. 2018, the patent value was $1.5 million. Now you can think who the hell would pay $1.5 million? There are people who find it useful to pay $1.5 million. So the point is when you look at anything, what does it do is more important than what you have done. Now where does this come from? Look at this survey, number of patents that were analyzed. I want you to focus on the top part of it. 2 to 3% are breakthrough innovations. The 95% are simple significant improvements. An iPhone 6 has more than 20,000 patents, and not all of them come from Apple. A BlackBerry 9.3 series has more than 10,000 patents, and not all of them come from RIM. Anyway, RIM is not there anymore. There are 108 patents how to kill a rat. Can you imagine there are 108 different ways to kill a rat? So it's possible that people think of different ways to do things, but it need not be big, and it need not be in tech. That's what the point here is. So as an organization, on the x-axis, you have how many people in your organization can actually innovate versus what is the impact that you have. Usually, we are here, cost focus, cost focus, cost focus. Okay, we do this and we are good at it and we need this. Don't get me wrong, we need this. But we cannot stop there. We need to go to the value focus. Now, if you go to value focus, you don't have those few people in your company who are stars. You need practically 90% of your company who are stars. So they should know how to innovate. Now the problem comes, we only have those 5%, 4% of the people through my survey that we have found that they are trying to create the same kind of innovation. Whenever you need innovation, you go back to the same kind of people. Now the problem here is we have not made people the center of innovation. We have made process the center of innovation. If you do a Google search after the, not now, after the session, you do Google search innovation and you Google search innovator and tell me how many numbers of hits you get. I can tell you one is in billions, 4 point some billion, one is in few millions. That means the focus is not on people. Now think, innovation is about empathy, creativity, understanding, appreciating, and then we are not in the center of the picture. That's where I come in with the good news that 60% of the innovation comes from internal employees. This is great news, right? We have the people, so they should be generating new ideas for us. But I'll give you the bad news as well. The bad news is you don't have people who can connect innovation and business. People who come with ideas don't make it useful. The business side is where it becomes useful. So in my research, we have found that only 4% of the people in a good organization, large organization, medium organization, where they can connect these two. So what is the problem here? There is a simple problem that we don't have enough people who can innovate. The 4%, let's say 10% for the sake of calculation, in a 1,000 people company, if 10% are innovators, you get something like 1 innovation per year, which is very big under ask, okay? But if you have the same organization where you skill people, you add innovation skills to them, then it becomes 5. Just if it is 50%, I'm talking about 90%, which is still a good number to have. Now, that means just by skilling people, you get much more output from the same organization without adding one single head count. Now, I could not resist this. Many of you have known this discussion. CFO asking, what happens if we invest in developing and they leave us? And they say, what happens if we don't and they stay with us? So it's a choice, right? This is a choice you got to make because it all starts with you guys. If in innovation, it's always a top-down intention. It's only bottom-up execution. Don't expect people to start the initiative of innovation in an organization. It's your job, my job to start it. They will help me, but you got to start with it yourself. So what does it do? We all have domain knowledge. Irrespective of the function that I talked to you about, any part of the organization does the job well. Then you have business context for your business. You know the business well. You know your technology well, your products well. If you only have these two, you can find solutions. That's what we are good at. We find solutions, but somebody has to give me a problem. Now, if you add innovation skills, with this context, you can find good problems to solve. Not any problem to solve. That's a skill that is in short supply, right? Then you can use the domain knowledge to find valuable solutions which will sell. So together, you can create business impact. Now, this is where the whole point comes. Are you adding only the skills that you have for the domain and business, or do you have innovation skills? We don't have that because World Economic Forum, also you can Google it after the session, is I have a World Future Skills. I just put the top 5 in big letters for it's easy to read. Just summaries, it's all about innovation. There is no Python, there is no Cobra, there is no such thing. It's all about innovation, how do you analyze a problem and come with a solution. There are a lot of skills in the process of innovation. I don't have time to go through in detail, but maybe if some of you are interested, we can have a chat. There are different steps to cover innovation, and there are different skills. The whole point is, no one person will have all of these skills. None of us, right? Now, the question is, this is a survey that I want to show, which is an online assessment for the skills that I showed. These are two real people. Look at how different they are. Somebody is very good in networking. Somebody is very bad in networking. Somebody is very good in hard work and persistence and experimenting, and somebody is very poor in intuition. So you have to tell them everything. Why is this important? Is that you should know whom we have. Typical thing, we put a good project management guy into innovation. I always say we have two problems. We lost a PM guy, we have a bad innovation guy. So we end up with double the problem than we had before. So hence it becomes a team game. You got to collaborate as a team, because as a team, you got to complement each other. Because I always say, if you have a thinker, doer, connector approach of the 3 things, you cannot have only connectors. They keep talking because there is nothing to talk. You can not have only thinkers. They keep thinking, nothing comes out. So you need to build a combination of these teams, but you should know who is who. Then only you can build a team as well. That's where your role is super important. We talk about data a lot, right? Data is not an advantage anymore. Nobody has a unique edge over having different data. But what you do with the data you have, and that's what I call context. 2 people in this video, look at how they build context. The guy on the screen, his life was completely fine till 3 seconds ago. Now he has a problem. But the guy who walked away is not remorseful or sad. He's happy that I did something today. You know, I pushed a car. All that he had to ask was, why are you pushing the car? Now that is where the problem comes. Contextualization is your value addition. How you have understood the business, how you have understood your customers, how you understand your own strengths compared to your competitor's strengths. That's your intelligence, that's your IP as well. So I want to leave this also in your mind. X-axis as new problem, known problem. Y-axis as new solution, known solution. This is no-brainer. You will do it in your sleep. That's why you are here, that's why you are successful. But zone 1 is finding new solutions for known problems. Also you will do with some stretch. But I want to focus on 2 and 3. New problem, new solution, new problem, known solution. That's where your job is. That's where your game is. You got to top up the game to zone 2 and zone 3. The more you have, the better you will be positioned. Higher risk on the right side, low risk on the left side. But we are not here to play the game safe. We're in a business to let it grow. So you got to play the game in zone 2, definitely in zone 3. Start with a mix of 1 plus 2 plus 3, and then see how you can skew that mixture up as you go. So couple of slides. We're all CXOs, CYOs, CIOs, CSOs, whatever, right? But one thing which is a trap is called the technology trap. My favorite story, because I learned a lot in my profession when I was VP and head of innovation in a company 10 years ago about, they said, you have to make a technology product for the home. I was a little bit overwhelmed. I think technology product for home, I think it's an over ask. Say, then accept you can't do this. Then ego comes in, PhD in innovation, how can you know? So okay, I did. So I did an induction cooktop. You all know induction cooktop, which is a mobile phone control, okay, to cut the story short. So I went to my mother. This is a story that turned my life around. So I put it in the kitchen. She was to my right, put it to the wall socket on the left, removed everything. She was waiting patiently, removed my phone, did some more stuff. Finally, after 2-3 minutes, I switched on the remote, using the phone, the induction cooktop. I was delighted. I said, yes. My mother was disenchanted. I said, you are not excited? He said, no. What happened? You switched on. You could have switched on long ago. You're standing there for 3 minutes now. I said, oh, now even more difficulty to prove my worth. So I was traveling to China 2 days later. I said, I can switch on from China. She said, why? Why would you do that? So I have to make an ISD call. You please switch it on. Then I have to make another ISD call. Take this damn thing away. Now, technology was good. IoT, what it speak. The Gartner hype cycle might have sold it at speak. But she threw away because there was no impact. There was no benefit. There was no use. Now, cut the scene 6 months later. Men and women, India, cooker, especially, sorry, gentlemen from outside India, it's a very Indian problem, where the lady of the house says, please switch off the cooker after 4 whistles. And the man says, yes, agreed, ma'am. And after that, he listens. He doesn't know if it's the first whistle or a 4th whistle, right? Then he has to think, what should I switch off or not? What is the decision I should take now, right? So we have another induction cooktop that I designed, which will just listen to the number of whistles that you have set, 1 to 15, and switches off. Difference, impact. It is not IoT, it's an old technology, but it made a difference, and my mother still uses it. It's very important that you understand technology versus benefits of technology. They are 2 different monsters. Your game is in the second, using the first. Your name is not passing on the first thing. Tell my mother you have Gorilla Glass. It doesn't make any difference to her, right? Having said that, if you want to play utility versus novelty with your team and yourself, have more utility than novelty. If you have a very novel thing which is useless, please throw it away. But if you have something less novel but more useful, you can still find business for it, right? Because this is where the game actually happens, utility, not in novelty. We are good engineers. We always create stuff, right? How to establish context? Like my mother asked, why? So what? And I sit in a lot of startup pitches. Any domain, you can dissect and challenge with these 2 questions. I can guarantee you that any domain, any idea that comes to you, you can play this game as well. Now, help people understand in your organization what we can do versus what we need, what we should do. The game is on the right side. It's very easy to play the left game. You can come and say, oh, we have so many things to do. What does it do to the business? Nothing much. So you shouldn't be in the game at all. Now, this is where the third one comes. What should we solve? How should we solve? Then we have an innovation. No. Why should we solve? That's your game. That's your question. That's where you come in. And you go and ask everyone who is coming at you with so much of enthusiasm, same question. Why should we do this? What happens if we don't do this? What happens if we do this? Now, that is a question many people don't like because they're not, that's out of syllabus, okay? That's where the problem comes. Now, you are also working on your culture. Culture is how you decide and how you act. So if you say something in your town hall, do say the same thing in the coffee corner also, at lunch table also. Don't say something in the town hall which you don't follow up in the coffee talk. Now, behavior model, if you want to have certain behavior, incentivize. If you don't like something, penalize. But don't leave it in the middle. So if you want punctuality in your organization, if you may have a meeting at 2 o'clock, somebody will come at 10 people are invited, some will come at 1:55, some will come at 2, some will come at 2:05. If nothing happens, everybody will come at 2:05. If nothing happens, nobody will come after some time. right? But that's the organization culture. You set the culture because these are series of small things that you do. Same with innovation. If I do innovate, what happens? If I don't innovate, what happens? You set the culture by incentivizing and or penalizing, right? Now, help your people. You can wait as long as you want. The cheese will not develop hands and legs and walk to you. Never. It will rot. It will go away. It will stink. But you got to make sure, help people make those decisions. I always tell my younger daughter, she used to come and say, I want to color these things. Which color should I use? I said, you choose. She said, no, you choose. So it will go on. Okay, deal. You select 2 colors and I'll choose 1. So she learned to make decisions. Help your people. What should I do? Then you say, what should we do? What is your recommendation? So help people make decisions. Help people take risks as well. So that's what I wanted to leave you with. Thank you so much for listening to me. Pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir. We request you to remain on stage. And I will request Mr. Somnath Guha to kindly come forward to do the honors of felicitating Dr. Sudhindra Kaushik. Thank you very much for this very interesting and enjoyable session that we had with you. And Mr. Somnath Guha is the Vice President, Production and Engineering, ABP Group. Keep the applauses coming as Mr. Somnath Guha felicitates Dr. Sudhindra Kaushik. Thank you very much for this interesting session, sir. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, dear delegates present here, we will now break for lunch. Lunch is for an hour, and we request you to kindly return before 1 hour so that we can start the sessions on time. We have a wonderful session which is going to restart after lunch. We request you to be here. Thank you and enjoy your lunch.